Good afternoon. Wow. So As you know, I put out the lighting system for the bug-out bike. That video I put out today. Again, with that camera that we had recently purchased. Sorry for the video. And I'm not speaking about the shakiness of the video, although that's part of it too. That particular model doesn't have anti-shake at all. I tried to smooth it out with my editing software, and I could only apply the anti-shake on the very beginning, which was the absolute worst, because otherwise it just had a real weird effect when I tried to move the camera to show you the other stuff. Kind of weird, but I guess anti-shake in software anyway is for if you're trying to take a still video of something. So anyway, hopefully I can get that rectified within the next couple of months and get a decent camera. So anyway, I got that out today. Trying to think of any more news that's Watchman newsworthy. I'm hoping we make a good relationship with that Absolute Kratom company and possibly be able to get something worked out to where it won't be offered on the Watchman News, but it'll be offered on the PrepperNurse1.com website. So hopefully we can strike up a decent deal, acceptable deal with that company. I'm looking forward to it. That would be an awesome product to be able to get involved with, along with CBD oils. So working on it, but it's a matter of finding distributors and not companies that are just looking for affiliates. There's a big difference in the two, very big difference in the two. Not only, of course, the profit margin, which is important, of course, but it's just one of those things to where it's one thing like with our Amazon link, okay? You guys click on the Amazon link, you go about your business, you shop on Amazon. Amazon takes care of everything, but that's an affiliate, okay? And we barely get anything out of that sale, which is fine. I'm not complaining. But we're looking as far as PrepperNurse1.com to be a reseller, which is a much different setup, okay? In other words, I would put the products directly on the PrepperNurse1.com website. People would order from the website, directly from the website. Ed, PrepperNurse1, he would be placing the order with the company. It would be shipped to the customer. It's a totally different deal. And I told PrepperNurse1 today on the phone that I'm even up for, if he wants to do like a wholesale thing. I have no problem as long as it's a product that don't take up a bunch of space, because we don't have a bunch of space. But if it's a product that doesn't take up a bunch of space, I have no problem distributing that, sending out the packages and stuff like that. Not a big issue. So I guess that's Watchman newsworthy. Trying to think of, it seems like there was something else that was somewhat big. I can't remember. As far as Amazon, wow, somebody, I guess, yesterday or the day before signed up for the free trial of Audible. Apparently, we get, they throw us a bone for that. So I guess one person signed up. Again, I can't see who, but one person signed up for the free trial of Audible, and they threw $5 our way in our, well, they call it fees, but I would call it revenue. From Amazon. So that is like incredible. So if you want to check out like Amazon Prime or Audible or Kindle or anything like that, please use our links. You don't even have to keep, you can get the 30-day free trial and cancel. It's still going to throw a little bit our way. So that's awesome, and thank you to whoever did that. Let's see. Trying to think. I do have a discussion that I'm going to talk about today. I know Prepper Nurse 1 talked about the subject. I have not watched his video yet, but I have information that I have gathered from throughout the day involving the same subject, and so it's what I'm going to talk about, not because he did, but because it is important to get the truth out there. So, because I'll tell you what, and I'm speaking about Venezuela, I am seeing an overwhelming amount of people blame mismanagement and socialism as the cause for the blackouts. Sorry, not it. You can't tell me, and this falls under the common sense category. You can't tell me that a country can go along for X amount of years just fine, not have any problems with their power grid, and then all of a sudden it goes down, they get it repaired, they get hit with a cyber attack, it goes down again, okay? And ever since, they have not been able to keep it going. They've had problem after problem after problem. This is not an infrastructure issue, okay? This is something that is important that we as Americans get on top of, okay, and not buy the propaganda. And the reason why is because if we are attacking other countries in this manner, it's only a matter of time before we are attacked in the same manner. That's not good news. That's not good news. Because let me tell you something. Our grid is just as vulnerable. Our grid is just as outdated. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And it's actually, well, you'll see in the content, because I've actually pulled up several articles to be able to go over with you about this, to shed some light on the truth. Okay? This is what's important. The truth is what's important, not feelings. Okay? Yeah, I would love to be able to say, yeah, America's number one. They're the, anybody would that lives here, right? Well, most anybody. But we have to look at reality. We have to look at the truth. And the more we do this type of thing in different places around the world, the more of a danger that we face. Okay, I shared out an article, something to the effect of how we've worked out a deal with the Taliban. Really? So we went from the Reagan administration, okay, which was we don't negotiate with terrorists, and I would say Reagan pretty well proved that we didn't negotiate with terrorists. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Okay? So now we are directly negotiating with terrorists, right? The Trump administration is directly negotiating with terrorists. That's a fact. It's a fact. It's all over the news. I don't care whether you want to find it on Fox News, RT, Sputnik, CNN. I don't care what outlet you want to. It's a fact. We are directly negotiating with terrorists. Like the Taliban terrorists. Not like made-up terrorists like North Korea. Actual, real-deal terrorists. We're negotiating with them. Absolutely mind-blowing to me. Absolutely mind-blowing. So anyway, that's not the subject of my discussion. Venezuela is, so let's kind of move that direction. After I have a sip of coffee. I'm actually on my second cup already. Alrighty, well, normally I'm just starting my second cup at the beginning of the show, but I've had this one for a little bit. Okay, Venezuelan top prosecutor seeks to probe Guaido over sabotaging electric system. And even though the headline seems a little funny, I don't think they're talking about like proctology or anything. It is what it is. Anyway, the blackout has been ongoing in Venezuela for almost a week following an incident at a major hydroelectric power plant, GURI, which national electricity supplier Corpelec called sabotage. President Nicolas Maduro blamed the incident on Washington, citing U.S. threats to apply all means against Venezuela. Okay, so, and I'm not going to read every bit of every article because it's really not necessary. You get the idea here, right? They're actually going to be launching an investigation, which I'm sure that's common sense, right? So, but it does get crazy. Maduro says 2 perpetrators of power grid sabotage captured. Things are going to get real sticky real fast. And I'm going to show you that. Okay? Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has said 2 would-be saboteurs have been caught in flagrante delicto, which I'm probably butchering really, really bad. I do believe that's something to the effect of been caught red-handed, trying to take down the communication system of the GURI hydroelectric dam. Investigation into who sent them is underway. Now, this, I'm telling you, give me a moment. Authorities reportedly apprehended the two material perpetrators of the vandalism in the midst of interfering with the dam's communication systems on Monday, averting a serious catastrophe, and have turned them over to the courts. They are now looking for the intellectual authors of the sabotage, and Maduro has blamed the U.S. for the sustained technological attack on Venezuela's electrical system, which began last week. Okay? So, apparently they caught somebody right there trying to damage the communication systems. Okay? Let's see. After a failure at the Guri Dam left much of the country in the dark on Thursday night, authorities worked round the clock to fix the problem, managing to restore nearly 70% of the electrical system before a cyber attack knocked it out again on Saturday afternoon. Maduro said, adding that one of the generators had been working perfectly and could only have been sabotaged by an infiltrator. The Guri hydroelectric plant produces 80% of Venezuela's power, while stressing that the Venezuelan state has to act to hold those to blame for the electrical criminal coup responsible. Maduro praised the effort and behavior of Venezuelans who have remained at peace despite the prolonged blackout. He denounced the sabotage as a serious violation of human rights. While some of the country's power has been restored, Maduro has suspended school and business activities for Tuesday as much of the nation remains in darkness. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who has relentlessly pushing for Maduro's ouster for months, along with the rest of the Trump administration, claim the outages are due to years and years of neglect, due to the mismanagement and greed of Maduro's government. He denied U.S. responsibility for the blackout while proclaiming that the U.S. is interested only in the welfare of the Venezuelan people. Now, see, if you know anything about how the United States are, if you know anything about all the civilian casualties in the Middle East, okay, if you know anything about how the United States operates in countries it wants to topple, think about that statement. Think about what is said there, that we're only interested in the welfare of the Venezuelan people. I mean, to me, that speaks volumes. Him making that statement right there speaks volumes just in itself. Just in itself. This is coming from an administration that wants to boast about America first. Okay? Interesting. Now on to the next bit, which I will call evidence of what I'm saying to be correct. U.S. withdrawing all remaining diplomatic personnel from Venezuela. We're pulling out. Pulling out. After, mind you, the two people were caught red-handed. Now we're pulling out. Interesting. U.S. State Department announced it is withdrawing all remaining diplomatic personnel from Venezuela, citing the deteriorating situation and referring to the presence of U.S. staff at the embassy as a constraint on U.S. policy. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced the withdrawal on Monday, while most U.S. staff stationed in Caracas had already been withdrawn in January following the U.S.-backed opposition leader Juan Guaido's attempt to declare himself president. A select few remained in defiance of the President Nicolas Maduro's order to American diplomats to leave the country. Earlier on Monday, Maduro announced authorities had captured two saboteurs in the act of compromising the communication systems of the Guri Dam, which supplies most of Venezuela's power. He blamed the U.S. for the sabotage, calling the electrical criminal coup a serious violation of human rights. Folks, people died. People are dying there. Okay? Infants, you know, the red team, the ones that say they're pro-life and all that stuff, right? Yeah. I'm telling you, it is unbelievable. Really, really unbelievable. So, the next article is pretty much, actually it was supposed to be this one, is pretty much the same. Final countdown, U.S. diplomats given 72 hours to pull out of Venezuela. So even Venezuela is saying, look, you're out in 72 hours. They're not playing any games this time, and the United States knows it. The United States knows it. They have made so many attempts now to oust Maduro and set up their puppet government. Okay, and they have failed every single time, including this time with this electrical outage. They're failing. And I think it's a great thing. I think it's a wonderful thing. I really do. I'm tired of seeing the United States steamroll over these countries because of banking interests, global banking interests, because of natural resources. It's time we stop. We've got a lot of problems in our own borders that we need to take care of, including the wall, right? Including the wall and immigration, right? But we also need to take better care of our veterans. We need to take better care of our information and technology. You know, they're talking about Venezuela's neglected infrastructure. Look at our infrastructure. Look at our bridge systems across the country. Okay, but we're so busy going and fighting wars over in the Middle East, right, that we're not spending the money needed. Look at Flint, Michigan. What about Flint and their water problem? And that's just one city. Okay, are you aware that much of the country is experiencing the same type of issues and worse as Flint? I showed a map some time ago where it was talking about the different levels of the different stuff in the water, lead and other things in the water across the country. And Flint's far from even being the worst. And nothing's being done about it. But we're going to down other countries while we totally ignore and neglect what's happening in our yard? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All I want is a better country. I don't want to be somebody that just sits there and bitches and moans. Okay, that's not. I don't want that. I would rather not have anything to bitch and moan about. You know? But it's not going to be fixed if we ignore it. Right? All it takes for evil, not you evil, but, you know, evil, all it takes for evil to keep going is for good people, and I know I'm paraphrasing here, for good people to stand silently by. That's all it takes. I'm not going to be one of those silent people. I am not. You better black bag and gitmo me. You better shoot me in the head. I am not going to be silent, and I am not going to be complacent. Not going to happen. Not from me. I am God's servant, not man's. Anyway, this is another issue as a result of that. Blackout shuts down Venezuela's oil exports. So there you go. I mean, they were already being sanctioned so bad that they weren't hardly even selling any oil. They've got tons of oil setting out in the ports, okay, with nowhere to go with it because of all the sanctions. And not necessarily the sanctions directly on Venezuela, but the sanctions that would happen to the other countries if they did business with them. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. These countries are getting tired of it. These countries are going to start fighting back, and they damn well got a right to. And like I said, these bigger countries like Russia and China, they're going to make damn sure that that war is fought over here at least as well as over there. Guaranteed. They're on to that game. They're on to that game. Anyway, so that's my thoughts on Venezuela. I was trying to run through it as quick as I could. I could go on and on and on about it. But I think I've laid out enough just then for people to maybe see a little bit of light here as to what's really going on in Venezuela. So we'll see. 2 people captured, investigation ongoing. I'm looking forward to see what's found out from that. No, I don't just take anything that Maduro or anything like that. I don't just take what they say is truth and anything the U.S. says is false. Okay? That's not how this works. It's not how this works. I look at all the sides and use common sense, right? Eyes to see and ears to hear. And it's pretty obvious if you do that. Pretty obvious. But I'm telling you, get prepared. Get ready. Get ready for the same thing to happen here. I bet we see it. I bet we see it. Again, these other countries are getting tired of this, and the whole cyber thing is something that any little country could do, given the right people. So something to think about, something to keep in mind. Okay, let me run through the headlines real quick, and we'll get the monologue over with, and we'll get on with the rest of the show. Impeachment not worth it, says Pelosi as she positions Dems for post-Mueller Trump slump. Interesting, huh? Isn't that interesting? One bird, two wings. Okay? One bird, two wings. And if you forget that, you'll never see what's really going on. Aeromexico joins growing list of airlines to ground Boeing 737 MAX jets after deadly crash. And there's going to be a lot of news articles about that. I covered a lot of the stuff already for that monologue, the headline part here at the beginning of the monologue. So, Boeing pledges to roll out software upgrade for 737 MAX in coming weeks after FAA push. Pressured chemical watchdog afraid to contradict U.S. on Duma chemical incident, says a Russian envoy. Find that kind of interesting, too, considering all the stuff that I've covered when it comes to that particular chemical attack. Australia bans Boeing 737 MAX 8 flights following a second deadly crash. A violation of what? Users puzzled by Facebook's ban on sharing Zero Hedges links. Facebook at it again. Absolutely insane censorship. U.S. and Taliban make meaningful progress in talks, says the State Department. Our State Department. This is what I was talking about. Our State Department. This is not something that's being said that the U.S. is denying. No, our State Department is saying that the United States and terrorists are making meaningful progress in talks. Now, if you think that's how the U.S. is supposed to operate, maybe you need to go back and look at the Reagan years and see how Reagan dealt with this. China continues boosting gold reserves as part of its anti-dollar push. From scaremongering to direct threats, U.S. intel may be denied to countries that buy Chinese 5G. Right? They're doing everything they can to destroy them. Russia shows off upgraded world's most powerful rocket engine meant for Soyuz 5. And once again, I just want to point out, we're busy fighting wars and killing people while other countries are advancing technologically. Absolutely mind-blowing. Google's Vice President Singhal left with $45 million golden parachute despite sexual misconduct case. You know, this is unbelievable, folks. This is unbelievable. I mean, how would you like to, have to leave a position for something like sexual misconduct and be able to get a $45 million check? Trouble Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes banned from UK airspace. Oh, we're not done yet. Europe bans Boeing 737 MAX. Planes grounded, diverted as nations shut airspace over Ethiopia crash. I mean, there's countries are just saying, hell no, get it out of our skies. As U.S. officials repeatedly caught out over Venezuela lies, Pompeo accuses RT of disinformation. I mean, and that's the whole big push with RT to be listed as a, what is it? I can't remember the term. A foreign agent, I think is the actual term. Gotta love this story. Loyal sheepdog tries to hunt down truck transporting his flock to the slaughterhouse. That is incredible. Did a hell of a job there, Pupper. That's wild. Apparently he was chasing the truck down the highway, trying to get his flock back. Get the flock back! Let's see. No vaccine, no school. Italy starts punishing parents who refuse to immunize their kids. Coming here. It already has been happening here. Trump derangement syndrome is now fastest growing disorder in America. Are you a sufferer? And as I posted this on my personal Facebook earlier, and as I've been saying, there are two parts to Trump derangement syndrome. You have the liberals that their heads explode just from seeing a MAGA hat, right? But you also have the ones that will sit there and claim that Trump was sent by God, okay? And that and look at Trump as if he's a god himself, right? I think the old Trump derangement syndrome goes both ways. He's a man, period. He's a man. And I think when it's all said and done with, people are going to realize maybe he wasn't as great as what he was put out to be. Okay? Still don't have a wall. Hillary's not in jail. Still no new 9/11 investigation. Okay? The JFK files were resealed. Okay? Where's all the FISA files? See what I'm saying? Look at the facts. Don't get involved in the hype. Look at the facts. Look at the facts. So, but hey, here's good news, right? We got a bunch of new gun laws, right? No, it's not good news. I was saying that. But facetious, yeah, what Jen said. She's over there saying the English nerd in me just died. And let's see. Pakistan tests new homegrown smart weapon amid tensions with India. So there is that. All right, that covers what I have for the monologue. Kind of quick today, but that's all right. We'll get started in the video content for the day. So that again, that covers the monologue. If you're here for the live show, stick around. Sorry, I've kind of lost my mind. I kind of do that about every 5 seconds. If you're here for the live show, stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll be live till 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're here just to watch the monologue or the recording thereof, thank you very much. As always, God bless you. We love you, and be one with your spirit. All right, let's see. We'll pull up Prepper Nurse 1's video first here, and then We Are Changed has a video. I see that Roy Potter is live now. Let me do Prepper Nurse 1 first, and we'll go from there. So Prepper Nurse 1 has a video here titled "Power Outages Continue in Venezuela. Whose fault is it?" Not mine.
What? Huh? What's going on? Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Today is Tuesday, March 12th, 2019. See, I'm starting to get it down. Getting the right date. Right year anyway, right? So I'm going to show you the sky here real quick first. It's absolutely gorgeous sky. No clouds today. This morning we had a dusting of snow overnight. And then it was actually snowing this morning. And then it cleared up. And yes, I hear you. What? Hi. This is Buddy, as anybody knows. This is, he's my tough guy. Yeah. So, anyway, so yeah, pretty decent out as far as that goes. It's, temperature-wise, we're about 36 degrees today. So, and then it's supposed to get warmer, and get some of the snow melted would be really, really awesome. We've had some meltage, obviously, today with the sun out and stuff like that, and a little bit warmer temperatures, so that's not a bad thing. So decent day for power. You can see the sun is right here. Still got a little bit of the trees blocking it, but every day the sun gets a little bit higher, so that's not a bad thing either. And it's about 3 in the afternoon right now. So anyway, let's talk about the topic of today. Let's talk about Venezuela. And is this a precursor what could happen here in the United States with the power outages down there, and how it's affecting things? And it's like I wanted to really talk about like what's going on with the hospitals and stuff like that down there. So we're going into I think it's day 4 of the blackouts down there and power outages that affected 22 of the 23 states in Venezuela, and they're still having issues down there. So there's a couple different causes that it's being explained away as why they're having these issues with the power outages. And one of the issues they were saying was that you had poor maintenance as far as the electrical grid goes, because of the fact that once it was government takeover of the power grid, that they haven't had the maintenance on the lines and dealing with the overgrowth and stuff like that, which caused fires and stuff like that. Because I don't know if you guys remember here, last year they came through and cleaned out, and you can kind of see it down that way. They cleaned out the woods around the power lines because there was a lot of issues the winter before with power outages up here because of inclement weather and branches coming down and taking out power lines and stuff like that. So for the people that live up here with me that are on the power grid, there was the previous winter they were knocked out power like I think 3 or 4 times, and this winter I don't think they got the power knocked out this winter, because they've come up and they've buddy, relax, stop, you're killing me with your nails. But they haven't had that issue because they took care of the power line. So that was one of the reasons they were saying down in Venezuela that they were having issues, because the government takeover of the grid down there, that they haven't had the maintenance that they should be having when it was all done privately. Of course, the other thing people are saying is that the United States is behind the blackouts and the power outages down there, and those So I mean, you know what? Will we know the real deal? Probably not. But the fact is, they're having issues with the power grid down in Venezuela. So let's talk about the hospitals and stuff like that. The biggest issue that they're having is staff not showing up, and so you got power outages. And so the public transportation isn't working, so people can't get to work, so they're having issues as far as getting to work, and you got a lot of people just staying home. And so I think that's a really, really good indication, a really great example of what would happen here. Same type of situation, if the grid went down or we were having major issues with the grid, people would just stop going to work. So I've kind of talked about that before. And I've talked about that people will walk off the jobs, if there is a major power outage here in the United States, that people would just say, the heck with it, and they would go home. So that is not surprising at all, and it's a really, if you want to look at it in like a microcosm of what's happening there, and the deaths so far in the hospitals, I think they've attributed 17 deaths at least 17 deaths to the power outages, and a lot of those deaths, I think 15 of them were people with that were on dialysis, and I've kind of talked about that a little bit. That if they can't get their dialysis, and without the power, they can't run the dialysis machine, that people are going to get filled up with fluid and they're going to die. So that is not surprising in that part of it at all. There was a lady that down there, one of the articles that I was reading, that had taken her son to the hospital, and there was not a pediatric physician on staff at the hospital. Her son ended up dying. Now, I mean, I don't know what all the details were as far as what led up to that, but this is a real good example, guys. I mean, this is something that people really should be paying attention to. With with a partial failure of the grid or a full failure of the grid, how is that going to affect things? And they're obviously working on trying to get the power back squared away down there and stuff like that. So, and there's like a bunch of countries that are willing to help and try to help them get that back up online and stuff like that. Of course, Maduro, the president, is blaming the United States for the power outages. And realistically, would it shock me if the United States was behind it? Not at all. It wouldn't shock me. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, I know it was the United States. I would never say that because I don't know. But it would not shock me if the United States was behind it, to just cause more suffering down there, to try to discredit him, to try to get the puppet that we have in Guaidó, I think is how you say his name. I'm not sure exactly how you say his name. But to get him in power. I mean, it's like, and how did he get to be the figurehead when he was never elected? I have no idea, but, that's, who the United States would like to have in power, because he's going to play ball with the United States. That's exactly how that works. Again, it's the United States sticking their fingers in pies that we don't need to have our fingers stuck in. But that's what we do. And like I said, the reality is, and what people really need to think about, what is the reality here? What is it? The bottom line, do we give a crap about the Venezuelan people? No, the United States doesn't. The people individually may, but we're talking the government. When I say we, I mean the government. What does the government of the United States care about the Venezuelan people? Not really. They may say they do, they may give it lip service, and we care so much and we're so concerned and blah, blah, blah. Well, if they were so concerned, they'd lift sanctions and let the country be able to prosper, as they should be able to. But that will never, ever happen, okay? What is the United States concerned about? We are concerned about oil. That's number one. And the fact that Venezuela is another country that wanted to come off the fiat dollar and to have gold-backed currency. Heaven forbid that we can't allow that to happen. The people in charge absolutely cannot allow that to happen. So they will definitely continue to cause heartache, to cause problems down there, to interfere until we get our way. Because why? Because we are the bullies of the world. Do as we say or we will ruin you. Look what happened in Libya, okay? Gaddafi, he may have been a dictator, but he was actually helping his people. And so we got involved in that behind the scenes with the resistance, and we backed them. And so now they're back to being a crappy country. And again, they wanted to go off the fiat dollar and wanted to have a gold-backed standard. And so we couldn't allow that to happen because we have to be in charge. And again, Libya, another oil-rich country, okay? Same thing with Iraq, It wasn't, I always laugh when they talk about, how these like dirty desert areas are, this huge threat to the United States. It's a bunch of crap. What it always comes down to, always, is about oil, mineral reserves. Afghanistan, it's about the uranium and all those minerals and stuff like that over in there. And again, it's like, it's power and control, guys. That's what the United States is all about, power and control. And, like I said, I think we need to really focus, in my opinion, again, we need to get our troops home, let the rest of the world do what they're going to do. We need to take care of ourselves, build up our own country, work on our infrastructure, make our country great. Somebody had talked about, like we were talking, I was talking in the one video about the high taxes in New York State, and somebody was saying, well, the reason you have all those high taxes in New York State, you've got really good roads and all this type of stuff. Now, anybody that's driven in New York State, come up here and tell me how awesome our freaking roads are. Our roads are crap, okay? They actually have different asphalt and stuff like that will really last a long time. But they don't use that. They use this other crap that's not going to last, it's going to break down, because that way it keeps these companies working. It's just, it amazes me, it really amazes me that there's all these different ways that things could be done better, more efficient, but then these people wouldn't have jobs after everything was fixed, and we can't have that, so we got to have substandard, products being used on the roads so that they'll break down within inside of a couple of years, and then they get to do it all over again. Absolutely crazy. Because I know, like in the city of Rochester, they had, redone 390 in this whole area. There's been a big construction project up in Greece area where they're redoing stuff, and within inside of a couple of years, those roads will be crap again. It's just, it's amazing to me. It really is. And we got, we get pretty harsh winters up here, and there's a lot of wear and tear and stuff like that. But they actually do have asphalt that is better, that can be used, that will last a long time, and that's not what we use. So, again, it's just, I don't understand the thinking of that. Why not use the best products available, really work on the whole country and make it better? It's like, that's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on America. We need to focus on, taking care of our veterans, taking care of our old people, and not just throwing them away in nursing homes and waiting for them to rot and die. I mean, they should be taken care of. These are the people that, for years and years and years made this country what it was back in our heyday. We're on a slow decline, guys. I mean, I don't, if anybody's paying attention to stuff, we are on a slow decline, and it's very, very sad. But I definitely want to hear you guys' feedback on the whole Venezuelan situation, because I think it's important to watch that, to see what's happening, because those type of things can happen here in the United States too. And when that does happen here, the power grid is definitely our weakest point, guys. It really, really is, and it's really scary to think about how bad things could be if the power grid goes down. If there is sabotage or an EMP in those type of situations, it's going to be a really, really bad situation here in the United States. So, anyway, this cat is a nut here. He is an awesome cat. That's Mr. Buddy. So anyway, on that note, guys, I'm going to jump off of here. I definitely want your feedback. I want to hear what you have to say. Remember, we are all in this together. That's important to remember, and I think a lot of people lose sight of that. If we work together and try to help each other, it's going to make our country a much, much better place, and around the world. I mean, anybody around the world working together is going to make things better. So remember, hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every single day. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. We never know. So to tell the people that you care about every day how you feel, it's really, really important. And also, guys, remember STD. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to accomplish, you can do it. The only one that's going to hold you back from doing that is yourself, okay? Nobody else can stop you. So focus, stay positive, and you can get wherever you want to be. Stay away from negativity. Negative people are just miserable, unhappy people, and they want to bring you down to their level. So I hope everybody has a great day, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.
Alrighty, let's see here. Okay, Pulse Change, which is the second channel, the backup channel for We Are Change, has a video here. And this has to do, I believe, I haven't watched the video yet, but just by the title and the image that I see in my email, I have a feeling what it's about. There was a report that was done recently. There was a simulation done in which the United States, in a global conflict, had its butt handed to it. And I think I mentioned that yesterday during the monologue. Folks, this is no joke. Again, we have not been upgrading our technology, okay? We have not been putting the focus on our military and the military might, I should say, I guess, like we should. We just haven't. We haven't. We've been funneling all these monies into the military-industrial complex to fight needless wars, not upgrade our equipment. Many of our troops overseas in Afghanistan and Iraq had, equipment that was almost useless. And there's a lot of vets that will tell you that. Okay, I remember that we had a slew of troops killed by IEDs because the Humvees and whatnot they were in were not properly armored. Okay, they had improper body armor. It just goes on and on and on. Okay, and so again, it comes down to whether or not we go with our feelings or whether or not we go with the facts. And with anything, I will go with the facts, the actual facts. And right now, for us to get in a global conflict, not a good plan. Not a good plan at all. And anyway, there was the Rand Corporation, which is a pretty well-known name, had done a simulation, a war simulation, and the United States didn't fare so well. So I'm assuming that this video is about that simulation. So anyway, Pulse changes. The channel is titled, "According to This, in Every Scenario, We Lose."
While the majority of people are distracted with identity politics and other lunacy in our political discourse, I think a lot of people have forgot that there still is a geopolitical economic conflict happening right now with world powers for world hegemony. And to talk about that, we're going to bring up this article that is titled, quote, "America Gets Its Buttocks Handed to It in World War III Simulations. U.S. Forces Are Defeated by Russia and China in Almost All Scenarios," analysts warn. Now, Jason, I kind of want to challenge you on this article. We're also going to get into the bigger geopolitical picture here. But, Jason, give us the kind of biscuits and gravy of this article.
So this is a study from the Rand Corporation. Anybody that knows about the Rand Corporation knows that they are heavily funded by the military-industrial complex. Most of these studies are, of course, funded by the Pentagon. No surprises there. And basically, they're running simulations based on our F-35 and technology we're using. Basically, we would not be able to invade Beijing. We would get torn up by the Chinese military. But I think the larger issue is here. They're trying to promote a revamped and new military. They're like, despite us spending nearly double, actually over double, the next military with over $1 trillion, we're falling behind. So in a lot of ways, these studies are kind of fear-mongering to get people behind a new and revamped military. And I think that's going to rely heavily on drone technology, automation, and robotics. And that's kind of scary. That's the undertone here. But as of right now, I do believe that if we went in there with our old gear and we tried to invade something like China, yeah, we would get our ace handed to us, because the Chinese have ramped their military up, and yes, they're drilling all the time, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, I totally disagree with you. I do think this is just total disinformation and propaganda. I mean, again, you pointed out, we were talking about this before we went and did this video, but again, Rand Corporation gets supported mainly by the Pentagon and military-industrial complex, right as Trump is proposing a 2020 budget where, of course, he cuts domestic spending and increases spending on defense. And as we know, it's not defense. It's really offense, what the United States has been doing, of course. And while the United States does really just incredulous things like attack Somalia, which actually we've been on the ground documenting how that's been backfiring, and also launching airstrikes in Syria, which just recently killed at least 50 civilians, while the United States does these asinine actions, creating massive blowback, what is China doing? China is literally building the new Silk Road, with the United States even having to issue warnings about Italy being made, quote, great again through, of course, China's belts and roads that they're building, that they're going to be enhancing their trade with, telling the United States, telling Italy not to be a part of this bigger Chinese plan. China also, of course, is expanding economically all throughout Africa, with what many people are even characterizing as a new colonization effort, with, of course, trade, aid, debt traps, and diplomacy, pretty much establishing a huge footprint with the continent of Africa, establishing themselves with more natural resources. So I call hooey on this. To me, the United States spends a significant amount of money on defense, on, of course, weapons, on, of course, the military-industrial complex, and strategically, there's a reason why China right now is building man-made islands in the South Asian Pacific Sea. They're doing that because where they are strategically located is very, very, very weak location strategically, because again, if they get invaded, they're going to be pushed back, and they need to set the conflict to be in the Pacific Ocean. They're surrounded by, of course, Korea, by, of course, Japan, by, of course, Vietnam, the Philippines, who, of course, are warning and are saying that, yes, we're going to be on the U.S. side, as China, of course, is expanding their efforts. They know that, this is inevitable, because whenever you have a world power advancing, trying to take over and be the world hegemonic power, the prevailing power, of course, always sees it as a threat. This conflict is, to me, inevitable one way or another. It's already happening economically. It's already happening with PR, with information, and even Hollywood. And to me, this is just another ramping up of propaganda, building us towards this huge, insurmountable, incredulous defense spending, leading us down this pathway, and trying to convince us that China could somehow win. Right now, as of now, looking at all the strategic points here, China can't win with the conflict. And again, it says here clearly in the article, either Russia or China. I definitely do not believe that, especially with the manpower, the military munitions, the equipment that the United States has compared to Russia and China, and also the geopolitical locations of both of those countries and the resources of both of those countries, with China also being very energy dependent on other countries, which could be cut off at any time, which is another reason why they're building these islands. Again, they're just a few of these islands. That's my take on it, Jason. To me, disinformation fully.
Well, I don't think it's, again, fully disinformation. I think, again, they're trying to promote a military transformation. And when you look at this part of the article, you can see they just want a little bit more funding, too. They say, analysts say it would take just $24 billion to improve outcomes. Now, that doesn't mean we win, but a little bit more
$24 billion anywhere. That's nothing. 24, just a little bit more for the money-hungry corporate welfare queen military-industrial complex. Jason, that's ridiculous to me.
Well, again, just a little 24 bill, and it's only about 3% of the $750 billion defense budget he proposed for 2020. No big deal. So, again, Luke, I think that you're correct in that some of this is definitely to get more funding, but I think the bigger transformation is what they're looking for. They're looking to say, hey, our F-35s no longer cut it. Come on. That's something that's been in the public for how long? You think that's the best plane that we have? No, of course not. We just traditionally have not used drones in warfare against first world countries with a large military. We've never done that to a China. We've never done that to a Russia. Hey, Africa, no problem. Hey, Syria. Hey, Yemen. Oh, I know I'm not allowed to say Yemen anymore. They signed a resolution that has no teeth. But those are the facts. So I think what you're really seeing here is them prepping us for next level, next generational warfare, which, quite frankly, Luke, I hope never comes, because if it does come with a world superpower like Russia or China, we're all in trouble.
I mean, obviously, because it's going to be mutually assured destruction, especially with the latest technological advancements, and even with what Russia is openly bragging about and talking about during Putin's national addresses, talking about how he could just wipe off the United States with these new weapons that won't be able to be stopped by U.S. defenses. Now, what I find interesting here is obviously we have two different strategies here. We have the United States, which just has the military-industrial complex, which is just a hammer, and then China, again, is more of the businessman in this kind of scenario. And right now, we are seeing economic warfare with the tariff talks, with the trade wars, but also geopolitically, we're also seeing China align themselves with Venezuela, with Iran, all of the bigger kind of geopolitical U.S. enemies. There's even greater relations established with Russia, economically, militarily, politically, those leaders coming together because they see the United States, the U.S. petrodollar, and the U.S. dollar being used on the world market as the biggest threat. This is the bigger conflict that's unfolding, that's evolving, that's happening right now. And if there was a conflict, there's no way with the U.S. Might being predominantly with its military, that China and Russia would somehow win. That is virtually impossible. The bigger scenario here, if it was an actual physical fight without these latest weapons, the bigger example here that Rand doesn't talk about is that if just one of these new advanced weapons are used, holy cow, pretty much the whole world would pretty much be over, if not a significant portion of it. And this is something that at the same time is terrifying, but also at the same time needs to be realized here is also keeping the world safe. Because instead of having local conflicts in local regions, this threat is terrifying enough to stop these people from actually engaging in a physical conflict. So right now, this is why the conflicts are happening in Syria, where we've seen the Chinese back Bashar al-Assad, and the United States try to overthrow him. This is why we're seeing rampant talk with Iran. Iran is very important for China with, of course, oil. So is Russia. And so is Venezuela. That's a whole other picture here with Russia even sending security forces to Venezuela to try to secure President Maduro, to make sure that he doesn't get assassinated, to make sure he doesn't get overthrown, because China has given a huge economic financial loan to Venezuela. Venezuela is paying that back, not with money, because they don't have any. It's all hyperinflated. They're paying that back with their natural resources, oil. So there's a huge natural resources economic war happening right now. Will it become an actual physical one? No. The fear-mongering, the military-industrial complex, to me, it's wrong. And to me, it's just the wrong strategy. When you have a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail. And I think that's why we're seeing such aggressive actions in Somalia, in Syria, that are hurting innocent people, having the opposite effect. And really, it's the wrong strategy here. The Chinese strategy, the economic businessman strategy, it's really going to work out for them long term. And it's really something to look out for in the kind of near future. It's not here yet, but with this inevitable kind of blunder that the United States is committing, it's going to be a major issue to deal with. This is why China is preparing the way that they are. That's just my analysis on it. Jason, what do you think? Do you want to debate or correct me on any of those issues?
No, let it slide.
Okay. All right, so that's our take on it. If you do want to challenge me, feel free to let me know in the comment section below what you think is wrong or incorrect about the larger kind of analysis that we provided here with you. We always appreciate your feedback. We always love listening to you because, again, we're independent media, and it's about having this conversation with you and not just telling you, what the truth is. Again, the truth is very subjective. This is what we gathered from our evidence, and we can only be better from it when we start communicating and listening to each other. This is a part of the larger mission we have at We Are Change, and if you agree with that, share this video, and thank you again so much for watching Real Independent Media.
Alrighty, and going to do one from last night from Rogue Preparedness. I'm kind of curious as to the answer on this. It's simply titled, Do Glow Sticks Go Bad? This is one of Prepping 365. This is number 251.
Hey everyone, Morgan here. So today I wanted to test out some of our glow sticks. We have so many glow sticks. I really love glow sticks because, you can just throw them anywhere and they're just, they can last anywhere for, a few hours to, I've had some glow sticks that last 12 plus hours, just depending on the type of glow sticks and where you get them. Now, some glow sticks are a little more higher quality than others. We have a whole container filled with these loose ones, and I honestly cannot remember where we found these, but these have never really failed us. I think I may have gotten these off of eBay. It was like $1 million for $1 or something like that. It wasn't that extreme, but we're going to crack some of these open. This is from the dollar store, and these are from Walmart on a sale. It was a 4th of July sale. We've had all these glow sticks well over a year. So I'm just going to test them. I'm going to break them and see if they're still working. If you are going to throw glow sticks in somewhere, you at least want to know that the batch is good. So for instance, I got these glow sticks around the same time. So I'm going to know that this batch is okay if I crack this open and it's good. So, ooh, look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Love it. And, some glow sticks, may not go bad, but they may like lose a little bit of its light, like after a couple hours, or like when it used to work for 12 hours, maybe now it's only going to work for 8 or something like that, but that looks good to me. Look at how glowing that is just from this. Okay. So this one is from the dollar store. I've had success with actual dollar store ones, but these are really give or take. So let's try to crack this open. And this isn't just these aren't working at all. That's good to know. So I'm gonna go ahead and trash these. So this is from Walmart. Again, we got this over a year ago. I'm gonna crack them open. I have plenty more, so if they still work, it's great. Alright. So this red, I really don't like red glow sticks. I feel like they just do not glow as good. I feel like they're just kind of gimmicky. They're not good for actual glowy stuff. I mean, look at the blue compared to the red. The blue, red. I just feel like the blue is lighting up a lot better than the red. I'm just not a huge fan of the red. I like the whites and the blues. Anyway, but that still works. That's good. Happy about that. All right, and then this is the same packet, but so we got this at the same time, but I want to make sure that it's still working as well. Yeah, look. These look very similar to these, don't they? But I didn't get them at the same time because these are all loose. Anyway. Ooh. Whoa. That was tough. It's tough to snap. Wow, that is really bright. Oh my goodness. That's like incomprehensibly bright compared to like this one. Look at the difference. This one is super bright. Wow. I want to know where I got these now and trash them. This is really nice and bright. I'm very happy with these. So basically, you just want to check your glow sticks. Just crack one open out of the bunch, and that should really give you a good idea about whether the rest are going to work. So, like, I can almost guarantee that if I try to crack all these, see, it's not working. None of them are working. So, the whole batch is going to be bad. So anyway, I love glow sticks, and I just wanted to see, they will eventually go bad, or they might dim, or lose effectiveness, or lose hours, and how long they'll stay, bright, or, there are name brand glow sticks, there are off brand, there's a whole bunch of different types of glow sticks. And the thing about the dollar store glow sticks, one last time, is that I have actually had dollar store glow sticks that last far longer than a year, and, I've had dollar store glow sticks before. In fact, I still have dollar store glow sticks that are not these types, that are actually these types. But, you just have to take this kind of stuff with a grain of salt and just make sure that you're testing your glow sticks regularly, just like you test everything else. Depending on how they're packaged, if I were to basically just close this back up, just like this, these glow sticks could really last like anywhere from 2 to 5 years. And glow sticks will, last much longer past their expiration. And again, it just really depends on, the type of glow sticks that you have, where you get your, where you're sourcing your glow sticks. Okay, anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Conquer Tomorrow by Preparing Today. Talk to you all tomorrow. Bye.
Alrighty. I used to like to get the little bitty glow sticks for the tip of a fishing pole. And I used to love to use those when fishing at night. Let's see. I haven't done that in like forever. It's been a long, long time. In fact, I didn't even fish out at the campground with the kids, which would have been 6 years ago. It's probably, or actually I guess about 7 years ago. It's probably been about 11 years, I guess, since I've been fishing. That's quite a while. Quite a while. Let's see here. Got one from Suspicious Observers, his morning report titled First CME Arrives, Geoengineering, and Major Flood. And YouTube's still at it again, as you can tell, so I try to get it as quick as I can.
Good morning, folks. We've got a full slate of topics to discuss today, and episode 21 of Earth Catastrophe Cycle comes out in a few hours, with one of the biggest surprises of the entire series. Let's begin right now at spaceweathernews.com. We find the last day on our star with little but the dark coronal hole turning through. There are no active regions or sunspots facing Earth, but 2 CMEs and a coronal hole stream are due to impact our planet, and the first one, a faint wave, has indeed arrived. It was sparse but magnetically different enough to overcome the weak telemetry of the stream, pushing the KP up a bit to just below instability range, and on the magnetometer, it is also clear that the smooth curves have been interrupted as we take the spike down. That was almost certainly the first CME. We've got another on the way, and the coronal hole stream as well, whose most intense portion is still about 2 days away. Let's go next to the weather. Brazil is flooding. Sao Paulo has been inundated and the death toll is rising, along with the record of damage to the city. Much of their expected rainfall in the entire month just came down in 24 hours. In the southwest Indian Ocean, we see the cyclones slowly on approach to Mozambique at the African coastline there. That is going to be a major event at landfall. And in the United States, here's a little 48-hour forecast that shows the snowstorms and cold waves set to continue shattering those records here towards the second half of March. And on the leading edge, however, is also the potential for major storms along the line ahead and leading the edge of that cell there. The U.S. climate report for February is out. Pretty cold there, and this is our maximum temperature charts for last month. I also went ahead and pulled the combined January and February numbers to get a look at the year so far. We know March has seen more cold and snow records drop, and more is coming right now. Interesting paper that appears to discover a new historical solar blast. This event, which they say happened around 660 BCE, would have been on par with the Carrington event or larger, like the Charlemagne event in the 700s. So the great known solar events of the last 2,000 years are here. Just as sunspots have a quasi-11-year cycle, superflares likely have one much, much longer. Now grit your teeth as we pull up Harvard's latest attempt to convince everyone geoengineering is okay. Here they claim that they can spray the sky and not cause the catastrophic climate effects that are now fairly well understood to be possible if they play God up there. Captain Chemtrail David Keith, of course, makes his obligatory appearance in the article as well. Jackals. Interesting study has discovered the closest pair of high-mass, close-orbiting binary star formations we know. That is quite a record to hold in the vastness of the cosmos, certainly worth a note. But worth more than a note is the continued release of an electric sun material, this one from an AGU book, describing the fields and currents found within the sunspot and how their setup is determined by the dominant electromagnetic forces in the active region, and how those currents get active during solar flare events. This is critical because whether it's something setting off the sun to micronova or a sun-diving comet triggering a small CME, that's how this all works, and all the energy needed for the visualized dynamo are present at the top layers. Folks, the bombshells for the Catastrophe Cycle series just keep coming, and you are ready to forget about Chan Thomas, I bet. Subscribe, click the notification bell, whatever you have to do. Come back in a few hours for episode 21 of Earth Catastrophe Cycle. We've got your wind maps and shots of our star to close. We'll do this all again tomorrow, right here, but right now it's 4:20 a.m. in the new Valley of the Sun. Eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.
Alrighty, got another one that just came in from Pulse Change, which is the backup channel for We Are Change. Interested in what this is going to be about? It's titled Police Departments Need to Stop This Immediately. On the image, what I'm seeing is LAPD Uber entrapment. So, and I guess that has to do with the transportation company, if you want to call it that, Uber. Anyway, we'll see what this is about.
this latest story that we're going to cover here absolutely outrages me, because this is a story about bureaucratic, big-bellied Becky Riviera Hernandez and, of course, revenue-generating soulless robot Robbie Chang here, who are two undercover police officers that were just caught in an unethical sting operation in this latest YouTube video. Of course, we're not going to see a lot of this coverage on the mainstream media. Actually, we're seeing the complete opposite of this. But Jason, let's just get into this clip, because there's a lot to unfold here, to say the least.
And these two people are the two individuals that entrapped me right here, and they're trying to do it right now.
This is a video of an Uber driver filming, or Lyft driver.
They're trying to get every other Uber driver and Lyft driver right now.
Talking about how they're trying to get any other Lyft or Uber driver right now.
Down.
And who's that?
The woman said that she didn't have a phone, or no, she said that her phone was, out of battery, and the guy said he had a flip phone.
Okay, break it down here.
All right, so I wanted to stop it right here, because people probably don't understand exactly. He's an Uber driver. It's illegal for him to pick somebody up for cash. Now, she, when they pulled over, said she had no battery life on her phone. Obviously, we need an app. And then the guy says he has a flip phone. So basically, they're stinging people for illegal transactions. As they approach, they have luggage, Luke. They're all done up as like a hip, trendy, 2019 couple that you want to help out. And what are they doing? Should we hit the video?
I mean, this is a couple, again, pretending that they're stranded, they're lost, their phone battery went out, they have to get to an airport for a flight, and random people, good Samaritans are going to be like, hey, these people need to be picked up, because obviously it looks like they're in California. There's not many taxis in California anymore. It's mostly Uber and Lyft drivers, and if you're stuck in a horrible situation, people are going to come and help you out. I had other situations where taxi drivers helped me out for no reason, picked me up because I was at the wrong terminal, dropped me off at a different terminal. They would have gotten in trouble with the law, with those stupid asinine rules. Let's just continue on, because it gets even more outrageous that this is happening with your tax dollars as an official undercover sting operation. Let's just get into it.
All kinds of people. Watch this. Hey, brother, those people are undercover cops. I just got a citation for this. Yeah, they trapped me.
Look at Officer Robbie Chang there. Again, just made up name.
Good job,
completely
guys.
made up. Robbie Chang was like, huh, he knows he's doing something wrong. Look at him hiding his face, and look at there. We have Becky Riviera Hernandez here, a totally made up name. Big belly bureaucratic Becky over here, taking out the phone, filming, and it gets more incredulous. Keep playing it.
I see y'all in court. Oh, I thought your phone was dead. Oh, your phone ain't dead no more, huh? Your phone ain't dead no more? Yeah, I didn't take nothing from you. I took nothing from you. I took nothing from neither one of you people, and you know I didn't. You know I didn't take nothing from you.
Stop it. I'm not harassing nothing. Stop it. Bureaucratic big belly Becky walks up to this Uber driver who was just fined, who now has to go to court, who now has to miss a day of work because he was doing the right moral thing. And what does Big Becky say? Big Becky's like, you're harassing me. What? How is he? Big Becky's walking up to him. He's filming the situation, started walking away because obviously you could see he's nervous. Obviously he's talking to undercover police officers, which again are doing to, again, this is the immoral thing. The justification that they have for this, Jason, is that, but you, as an Uber driver, you're supposed to be called specifically through your phone, and allegedly, you can't pick up private people. Again, if someone's stuck and about to miss their plane, you're trying to help them out there. This is the story that they're given. Let's just continue playing it unless you have something else to say, Jason.
Before we get there, I want to say that I'm going to call this gentleman Thomas Johnson, and she's just Laura Davidson. I'm not going to play into your stereotypes, Luke, but what I do want to point out...
Not stereotypes. That's the truth.
What I do want to point out is that we've been watching this video for about 1 minute and 14 seconds. He maybe had a 10 to 15 second, very brief altercation where he said something to another driver and saved them. Look right here in the background. Look right here. It took literally seconds for the police to arrive on the scene, and we're going to watch that. Hey, how you doing, sir? Hey, sir. Hey, what seems to be... Hey, sir.
No, I'm not harassing anything. Y'all entrapped me. Good job, guys. Good job. Good job. Oh, now look at this. Look at this.
What's up, man? How you doing?
What you mean, how am I doing?
What's up, man? Hey, homeboy. Hey, how you doing, brother?
Investigation my ass. You're not investigating anything. You're entrapping people illegally when they're trying to do the moral thing. You are acting as an immoral authority of the state. Another argument to get rid of the state. That's the whole thing. But let's just keep playing it. We don't even know what happened afterwards. But again, let's see what's happening here.
Stop somebody else from getting trapped. That's all.
So how can I help you today? You know, by doing this, you're interfering with an investigation.
I'm not interfering with no investigation.
Yeah. So
no,
whenever
I'm
a
not.
car pulls up,
I'm not interfering with anything. I was making a video and they just happened to have some people pull up.
Boom! Luke, I got to tell you, this guy handled it like a gentleman. I hope that goes viral, and I encourage more people.
It is. This video came out yesterday. Already has 81,000 views. And he used the direct approach, but there's other approaches where people just held up signs calling out speed traps or other illegal revenue-generating schemes by these police departments. Sorry, I cut you off, Jason.
No, continue.
I mean, 81,000 views. This video needs to go viral because people need to know what their tax dollars are being spent on. You finance the police department, and this is what the police is doing. They're storming medical cannabis shops before this. You know, they're doing things that are absolutely immoral instead of doing the actual things that actually do help society. Rather than, maybe go after the meth labs and actually the hardcore drug dealers. No, they're going to do the easy thing. They're going to do the safe thing, and they're going to do the thing that's immoral. And this doesn't just happen randomly once. This happens so many times all throughout this country, with even here in New York City, female undercover officers standing at the metro where the subway is and begging people, pleading with them, hey, if you have an unlimited metro card, swipe me in. Because again, you could buy an unlimited metro card. If you go in once, an hour later, you could use it again. And if someone helps this poor pleading woman, if a desperate guy helps out these poor pleading women, he's going to get a ticket or have to go to court or even be arrested, all depending on the officer's discretion for, again, doing the morally right thing. As human beings, we help each other out sometimes. We go out of their way. But these stupid, asinine, made-up little rules and laws are just completely, utterly insane. And it happens in New York City. It happens in California, predominantly because these are the biggest cash-strapped states. Yesterday, I did a video on the backup channel called Why New York City is Headed Towards Economic Disaster and told you just a little bit about just the unethical, immoral ways that police officers here generate revenue by punishing and squeezing every last drop of human existence from the people who live here. And again, this is something that will only get worse as the state plays a bigger role in our lives and offers you supposedly free things. Again, nothing is free. And this is important to bring up. This is extremely important to let everyone know what's going on here, because the mainstream media knows this bigger play here. Inside Edition, they frickin' did a whole expose, confronted New Yorkers that were evading the fare, confronting them, putting the camera on them, which is absolutely ridiculous, talking about, oh, why aren't people paying for this horrible service, by the way, which New York City can't run effectively at all, the MTA can't run effectively at all. Why aren't they paying every time to use this service that sometimes works by this state institution that ultimately doesn't give a damn about you and uses immoral police officers to squeeze the life out of you, to where people are broke and can't even afford the subway because we're getting ticketed and fined for the most stupid asinine reasons that could exist. And they have, of course, got chastised for it, and they deserved all the chastising because, again, they're showing, again, how the big media is pretty much another revenue arm of the state and how they're all playing along the same lines, when in reality, there's bigger truths to understand here, Jason. There's a bigger thing to comprehend here that not many people get. And that's not only just an argument against the state, but it's been documented, and we documented this case. We were one of the first news organizations to document this, that police officers legally have no duty to protect and serve you. Let's play a little bit of the B-roll of just this footage as we're talking about this, because as you were playing that YouTube video, Jason, this is video of my friend Joe Lizito, a hero, a man who stopped literally mass murderer in New York City when the police officers were watching by. The story is just absolutely incredible. This man is an absolute hero. We followed him, did follow-up stories as he went to court because the police officers who almost led their actions to cause close to his death, the police officers who lied about what happened, the police officers who stood behind and let Joe Lozito take this man down, which they took credit for later, and even announced that he was just a victim. Joe Lozito sued the New York City Police Department and said, why didn't these police officers protect and serve? And the court ruled, well, guess what? The police officers have no duty to even protect and serve you. And with the laws becoming more absurd, with even some people talking about how an average American commits a felony at least once a day with so many rules, it's only going to get worse from here. And that's why we need to realize, Jason, you disagree with this, the state is not the answer because it leads to demonstrative, horrible situations like we just saw unfolded in California and will continue to unfold unless the people speak up about this, because the media sure as hell is not going to do it, and the government institutions that are getting money from it, of course, don't want to end this immoral practice that will only get more immoral and more crazy if we allow the state to get more out of hand. That's my opinion. I know you disagree, Jason.
Well, I'm just going to say this. There is a comfortable amount of government, but I was always brought up, and I would think that people from my generation, that police were there to protect and serve. It actually said to protect and serve on their cars, and in many cases it still does. And I do believe that there are good officers out there that believe that. Unfortunately, you do have a system, especially when you have a large system like New York City, Los Angeles, urban areas in really anywhere. You look at Texas. These are places with mass corruption because the Leviathan gets just so big. And Jason, quotas. So big.
There's quotas in New York City where police officers have to give out a certain amount of tickets per month, have to have a certain amount of arrests per month, forcing, of course, a lot of innocent people to be trapped up in this revenue-generating schemes, which, again, are created by the state, Jason.
You just love talking about the state like somebody else wouldn't squeeze you. Look, if you think that I want to see my tax dollars or my law enforcement agencies putting money forth towards these programs and actually doing these things to people, of course I don't. I don't like this one bit. I think it's absolutely disgusting. But we've seen a lot more corruption, and I think the bottom line is that's why we have to keep recording police officers. We have to maintain that right because that right has slipped away in many jurisdictions. I believe last year we did a story on people just basically taping a protest outside of a hearing, and then they were all arrested in unison. They were later... I was
arrested a whole bunch of times for filming, again, with police officers, especially in New York City, running up to me, getting in my face, saying, stop harassing me. I'm like, dude, you're running up to me. The countless numbers of videos of me just getting screamed at and me just deciding, you know what, I'm just going to scream right back at you and invoke my rights. And sometimes that ended up with me in jail, which we fought successfully, and sometimes it ended up with just a video of us asserting our rights, which is very important. And again, not all police officers are bad, but seeing this is absolutely infuriating. You could see by the body language, you could see by the micro expressions, you could see by the facial expressions, these officers are ashamed, and they should be ashamed, because what they're doing is absolutely wrong, and it could only stop with the people seeing this. This is something the mainstream media doesn't like to highlight, doesn't like to talk about. They do the absolute opposite because it's all a big game. It's all a big generating revenue scheme. It's all about using you as the cattle, not respecting you. And this joke that officers are here to protect and serve you, it's in some rare instances, sure, but predominantly, let's be honest here, they're here for the state. They're here to generate revenue and do things that are the total opposite of safe or protecting or serving. And I think we all get that sentiment when we get pulled over and look behind. And I don't know about you, Jason, but I don't know if you feel protected and served when that situation unfolds.
I certainly don't. I'm no anarchist, but I don't like public funds going to these type of programs. No, thank you. I don't like checkpoints. I don't like DWI checkpoints, all that stuff. Look, I'm supposed to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, not to be approached by officers, and then if I do you a favor, I get a ticket and a fine. That's insanity to me.
Yeah, and again, it's just if people see this, right? If I see this video, I'm an Uber driver or a Lyft driver. I'm not going to help random people. I'm not going to pick them up anymore. If I'm walking through the subway, I'm not going to, swipe them anymore. And again, it's causing illogical, stupid behaviors and humanity to be separated by each other by these asinine actions that only enforce worse behavior, for us not to be there for each other. I'm looking at the comments of these videos, and people don't even understand what's going on. People are like, wait, is Uber illegal? No, it's not. It's stupid bureaucratic laws, and they could be doing something a lot more productive, especially in Los Angeles, especially with the amount of disease, with the amount of homelessness, with the amount of crime that comes out of Los Angeles. I could definitely, this is LAPD, by the way, as I'm seeing by the squad car, they could definitely use their resources in so many better ways. I remember I was with a friend, and we were pulled over for jaywalking, right, in Los Angeles. And I'm like, really? You have Skid Row. You have, what is it, typhus or typhoid coming back? You have all these problems in the society, and the only thing you care about is that I jaywalked? Again, this is building up to this social credit score Orwellian system, which, just like any gang, just like any government, will become too big for itself and start abusing its people. Jason, there's even crazy videos coming out of China where if you jaywalk, the facial recognition AI cameras take a photo of you, connect you to your bank account, let you know on a chat room that you did this, put your photo up as a wall of shame, and at the same time take money out of your bank account without you even approving it or doing anything for that offense of jaywalking. This is the society we're going towards, completely backwards, completely asinine, because governments are getting too big, too powerful, and this is why me and Jason disagree. I have my point of view, you have yours, but that's why we debate this openly. Where do you guys stand? Let me know in the comment section below. Very interesting to always hear the bigger political discussions that are happening down below. And these discussions, these videos wouldn't be happening without you, and that's why I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/we are change.
Alrighty, let's see. Ooh, this sounds like an interesting video. NWA Prepper has a video here titled Prepper Crime and Punishment, and then in parentheses, probably part 1. I'm interested to see what he has to say. Anyway, channel's NWA Prepper.
Hey everyone, NWA Prepper here, and I'm going to attempt to give my views on some stuff, on a couple of comments that I've gotten and questions and things dealing with well, in a roundabout, dealing with crime and punishment around our homesteads or around our mag groups or your tribe. And it's a pretty, it's not a pretty touch and go, it's a crazy touch and go subject. And it boils down to one point. And so the question is, what are my thoughts on how to deal with crime? And that's all right. Just go, forget the traffic law. Just do whatever you want. Sorry. Woo. So about crime and punishment, after the balloon goes up in your community or your mag group or your family or whatever. And there were some examples, theft, murder, rape. I mean, there were some pretty big crimes. Crimes that today we have law enforcement and the court system to take care of that for us. And whether you like police or not, you like them there when you want them. You don't like them writing you a speeding ticket, but you sure like them there when somebody's breaking into your home. And we're not going to kill everybody as soon as we see them. That's equally wrong in my opinion. I'm certainly not saying there's not a time for it. The Bible says there's a time and place for everything. Anyway, so back to the point of, if someone does a crime or commits a crime in your group, well, I think there needs to be, just like there is now, there are set rules, set expectations, and set punishments for said crimes that exist. They're already down in paper. You don't have to wonder if you beat the crap out of somebody and steal some of their stuff. You know what's going to happen today. You just know, you can tell. Now, of course, it's subject to a jury, and lawyers can manipulate things and all that stuff. I'm not getting into that. But what I'm saying is that there are set rules that if you break, these are the things that can happen to you. Different classes of misdemeanors, different classes of punishment for those, different classes of felonies. But they're all down on paper, so you can look and you can see if you steal somebody's stuff, and it's up by dollar amounts today. If you steal somebody's stuff up to this amount, this is what's going to happen to you. Your group, whether it's now or later, the group that you're involved with are the ones that need to decide on that. I believe in being a civilized society, even or as long as it is allowed. As long as I can do things to be in a civilized world, that's what I want. My group has set penalties for set things. If you steal somebody's food, you replace that food and there's said punishment to go with it. And there's no reason for that in my group, but that doesn't say it's not going to happen. The more serious crimes have more serious punishments. And those punishments are, for my group, aren't things that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about some of the things we discussed while we got to whatever our group punishments are. And I'm going to give you some thoughts from other groups and things. I do not mind one bit in life stopping a crime, preventing a crime, investigating a crime, and bringing said criminal, bringing them to justice. I do not want to be the one that decides on that justice. Will I carry out the justice as needed? As needed. I have a heart that leads my mind and my body, and in my heart there are things that I don't agree with. There are, everyone should be that way. Anyone, sorry about the glare, anyone who says hang them all, kill them all, let God sort them out, thanks for stopping by. Find another channel, because I don't think that's the solution. There are times, hands down, from even today, there are crimes that I believe there is no appropriate punishment to correct your behavior. If you kill somebody in cold blood, premeditated, I'm going to kill them to steal their stuff, I got bad news for you. I think the ultimate punishment. I'm also prepared to stand in front of my Lord and say, Father, this is what I believe was the only recourse, and take whatever punishment I get. That's not true for everybody. But I'm not willing to say that if somebody finds one of my caches or my supplies because their children are hungry and takes my food, I don't know how I'm going to react to that. I can tell you now all my eggs aren't in one basket. So nobody's going to break into my hen house and take all my eggs. They may take the big ones that I like, but they're not getting them all. A hungry person, a starving parent with starving children will do terrible things, will do whatever's necessary to provide for their family. I will do whatever's necessary to provide for my children and my wife. Whatever's necessary. Can I hold somebody else to a harsher thing because their children went to bed with an empty stomach again and they found food? I don't know. The great thing is, in my group, I am not the person that has to decide that. You need to find your weaknesses, find your strengths, find people in your group that you agree with on every level, or on enough levels that matter, such as right and wrong, your spiritual lives, and the way things need to be run, so that it's not an issue. And if it's an issue, you've already discussed it. You know what everyone's feeling is on this. You've had these hard discussions today, so when they happen, there doesn't need to be deliberation or discussion. It can be fact-finding, and you find out this, and this truly are the cases. This is what we've decided beforehand is the way that we're going to handle that. And then handle it. I have a personal issue with if you exile someone from your stuff, from your home or your community, and they don't have means to take care of themselves, they're going to find other people and tell them where the stuff is. That's just how that's going to work. That's a lot to think about. You know, there are a lot of lesser crimes that I don't believe have crazy punishments. You get an extra cup of beans at dinner. If it's not habitual, then it's, I don't. It's so hard, guys. This is literally going to be some of the hardest moments of your group, the hardest decisions that you have to make as a tribe. And this all comes down to, you need to decide them now how you're going to handle it, what you're going to do now. Write it down. Not, we all agree on that. Put it on paper. Put your signature to it. Put his signature. Put her signature. Everyone in the group knows that if you rape somebody, this is what happens. If you steal somebody's beans, this is what happens. If you hurt somebody, this is what happens. If you tell somebody security things, this is what happens. These are the recourses for this. But you got to put more thought into it than just big crimes, because there's lots of little crimes too. What if you don't share something you've agreed to share? And that's hard too. I guess this video has probably been no help, other than to tell you that whatever group you're in, you need to have those hard discussions now. You need to have them 100% with everyone in a clear mind. Don't have Don't have any adult beverages before you have this conversation. Maybe continue it later, because that's when you really feel when people open up. Be ready to be angry with each other. Be ready to argue. Be ready to not like each other for a little while. I mean, you need to do that. You need to have those discussions, but that's why you need to have the same beliefs. I don't know if you guys have seen me hold this up before. This is the Holy Bible. It's a little dirty. I got kid things in it. I use it a lot. Got a little thing my son made me, several. Well, when they gave me this book, he made me that bookmark. You need to use it. You need to use it. I like this Bible, and I'll tell you about it in another video. Use the Bible. Use your community. Discuss it. Make plans now. Put it on paper, so when things happen, you've already made those decisions. It sucks, but you need to do it. Let's get ready.
Alrighty, let's see. I'm just kind of scrolling through real quick. Seen what sounds like an interesting video, and I'm making sure that it was from today. And I thought I was just going to be able to scroll real quick and see it, but not so much. Well, I hope it's from today, because it sounds like it's going to be a good one. I'm all for... Oh, it is. There it is. Okay. Let me scroll back down. We shall get to that here momentarily. Before then, let me do Suspicious Observers. He's got another one of his Earth Catastrophe Cycle episodes here, and it's titled CIA Classified. And after that, we have one from the Lurker.
Episode 21. We go back to where we began, with the classified Chan Thomas book, The Adam and Eve Story, and the postlude that has finally been revealed beyond the sanitized version the CIA did release. It not only furthers the resolve surrounding a catastrophe cycle on Earth, but it proves that the government hid support for the plasma universe and continued to try to hide it even after their release of the sanitized copy. The catastrophe cycle is a legitimate double conspiracy, both the story of our planet and the direction of modern physics away from reality. But first, we will examine the premise built on the preceding episodes as a foundation, and the foundation is simple. The disaster is coming. There are coincidences you just don't ignore. Like when a story by an Air Force major details a fossil record of magnetic reversal-driven mass death events on Earth, with the CIA and Pentagon to which he reported, saying they happened 12,000 years apart. And when an accountant surveys available literature, lining up the numbers in the exact same way, even while having to decode carbon-14 dating changes in the 90s. And when the evidence of magnetic reversals, mass extinctions, and the appearance of new species have a suspiciously similar periodicity, with carbon dating error ranges potentially being high due to ice sheet cosmic ray shielding and only half of Earth facing the Sun or galactic center at any given time, taking the brunt of a burst. The patterns described by Robert Felix walk in the footsteps of Cuvier, Hibbins, and Deluc, and they seem to involve cataclysmic shifts of the planet's rotation or tilt, with inundations of the sea, and with the shift of Earth's magnetism. We have, of course, seen the rapid acceleration of Earth's changing magnetism over the last 100 years, and are about due for the next cycle event by nearly every approximation available in this realm. We have even seen an outside look at the longer and more cataclysmic million-year cycle from Dr. Raiskin that cannot escape the trinity of magnetic reversal, sea level disruption, and mass extinction. With this, we must ask a question which we will seem to answer and then later have to reconsider. Is this a linear process when the galaxy or sun triggers the Earth's disaster, or do the changes at various scale occur in unison and harmony, with linear processes added on top of them. The fact that Earth's magnetic field has already begun its shift, without the great solar flash or impacting galactic superwave, forces one to think that perhaps this is not linear, but that resonant, harmonious, clocked process where the interconnectedness is showing us signs on Earth before the crescendo. We'll fight that magical notion momentarily. Because now we come back to the beginning. The entire reason this collective has now begun to re-examine a catastrophe story after 5 years' leave. The CIA declassified a highly sanitized, 57-page version of the Adam and Eve story, which most of us had never heard of. We had no idea just how sanitized it was, but we could tell from the structure and foreshadowing that more was missing. It was all we had. So we began by exploring that most extreme version of the catastrophe in Chapter 1, and by seeing that the foundation of debunking that crustal displacement theory came from a bachelor's degree authored paper from a CIA-controlled department at Columbia University, and from a paper describing a historical pole position record which would debunk the crustal motion, but which had corrections to the article, some of which put the pole positions in history 180 degrees longitude away from their previous guess, and nearly that far in latitude. That correction paper was lost in the literature. The debunking paper pressed on. 57 pages of flowery detail describing a disruption to Earth's low-velocity zone plasticity due to an electromagnetic disruption that allows the crust to shift. That was all we had. And then Adrian D'Amico and Gary Long stepped up. They found, hunted down, and received the full Chan Thomas work, and it includes a postlude of incredible bounty, and which might actually explain the reason for its classification and heavy sanitization thereafter. As you might know, Adrian has been my friend for more than 20 years, and he runs a UFO, ET, cultural political threats, and conspiracy channel called Suspect Sky. He and Gary went next level hunting this down and bringing it to you. On SuspectSky.com, you can find a link to a full page-by-page turning of the Adam and Eve story and the postlude performed by Gary Long. Highly recommend you check it out. Now here is what I took away from the postlude. It is hard to deny that it's all about the big event. The book describes the mammoths in detail and how the mud in which they were encased, not ice, indicated that a tsunami of frigid ice and tundra and soil was thrust upon it. We heard this from Dr. Laviolette not long ago. The strata of Earth, being another evidentiary layer, shows the homogeneity not possible without the catastrophe. There is a fascinating bit about the asteroid belt being a destroyed planet, which favors many of the ancient stories and the resonance model of the solar system. He spoke of various survivors in various regions who did not receive as bad of wind and tsunamis as other areas, and if you think about it, anywhere a petroglyph was carved is a place where they survived, at least initially. And then Gary turned the page again, and my heart literally stopped. I almost fell. There it was, that name. It just so happens that Chan Thomas, like the great Anthony Peratt, is a student of Hannes Alfvén and the plasma universe. His focus on magnetohydrodynamic power is one of the great mystery solvers in the universe, especially because our planetary low-velocity zone plasticity that is holding the crust in place is a function of it, internally, geomagnetically, and it can be disrupted. The next part is critical, because Chan Thomas makes a mistake. His position is that the event is galactic, but not a superwave, the magnetic null zone crossing, called a reversal region of the galaxy, which would cause Earth's low-velocity zone to lose its plasticity and for the crust to shift, exactly as we heard in Episode 1 of this series. The magnetic nulls are, in fact, what we now well understand to be called current sheets, in this case at the galactic level. The trigger we hypothesized in earlier episodes is indeed where the galactic interstellar magnetic fields change direction, and that is exactly what Chan Thomas is talking about. We have recently seen bolstered evidence of this field in all galaxies with the presence of nanodust in the interstellar medium, statically clinging to the electric field double layer like dust on a Swiffer. The national labs and NASA have begun to go plasma universe, and at the galactic scale, that means that the galactic nucleus is where a plasma current meets the electric field, which is where the galaxy is found. And if there is one thing we know from the science of magnetohydrodynamics, the the stories of the ancients, and the evidence here and on the moon. It is that the sun gets involved as well. Chan Thomas misses this completely. And we revisit the linearity of the event now to challenge the magical interconnectedness that tantalized our imagination minutes ago. The current sheet is likely to be broad, but the reversal of the galactic fields to be predominant and fast in the middle of the sheet. It is magnetically null because one sheet and one hemisphere of fields flows out from the galactic center, and the other sheet and other hemispheric fields come back in, canceling the magnetism right in the middle, just like in the heliospheric current sheet in the solar system. So we would expect to enter the double layer and begin the magnetic reversal process long before the field influence switched and the sun began to rock and roll. Furthermore, it is hard to imagine a galactic event triggering the Earth, but not the sun. This could truly be a multiple event catastrophe. So what is the point of all this? Again, that we are survivors. For you and your children's sake, there needs to be a plan just in case. And in lieu of living your life in fear, knowing what to do in those first moments is important. Are you hunkering down? Are you getting out of an urban area? Are you getting supplies ready? Or are you planning on know-how after the event? Enjoy life responsibly. We are here to learn and fail and enjoy and try and love. You may pay for poor decisions in this life or elsewhere. Your awareness may make the difference in what DNA makes it to the next stage. The Global Petroglyph Library and rock at survival sites is a great reassurance of our endurance, and we'll need it, because Novus Tempus is coming. Chan Thomas believed the next event was imminent, like many other voices we've heard. But more importantly, his focus on Alphane and plasma universe principles is probably the explanation for its classification. Not only is this the doorway to unlimited universal energy, but understanding the planet and the power to control the people's minds about it, not to mention superweapons, anti-gravity, and anything you or the craziest person you can think of can think of. I can think of some reasons to keep it secret, and I can think of some more important things at stake right now, however, like the continuity of our species. I cannot implore you enough to go back and watch the 20-odd episodes in this series, linked below. We're not done yet either. Be safe, everyone.
Alrighty, got a interesting video coming up. However, I'm going to go ahead and continue as said. The next video is from Let's Talk About Prepping. I'm kind of curious as to the results he got here. You all know by now that I had spent not near this much, by the way, but I had spent like $65 on a camera and a little SD card. That is, it's crap. It is truly crap. If you've seen the lighting video from the bicycle, the Bug Out Bike lighting video that I put up today, or if you'd seen the video of me assembling the Blue October decal, that video was shot with the cheap, cheesy little camera that I bought. Absolutely not happy nor impressed with that unit. Folks, I paid less than that years ago when I was flying ultralight airplanes. There's a video that I've played here a few times of me flying an ultralight airplane, and I paid $30 for that. It was a knockoff of like a flip camera. It didn't look exactly like the flip, but it was essentially a knockoff of the flip camera. I paid $30 for it, and I think its maximum resolution I think was 720p. But the quality of the video of that little, I think it was like it might have even been like a little Kodak thing, like a little Kodak Easy something, not an Easy Share. I would have to look it up again. But that little bitty stick camera, which wasn't much of anything, took 10 times better video than this unit that I bought for more than twice as much. And, you know, it is what it is. So anyway, let's talk about prepping. Has a video here. GoPro H4 versus camera phone comparison. And I would use the camera on my phone. The problem is even if I put a blank SD card in it, in the phone, it gives me a very limited time. Now, it will let me take several videos at that limited time, but it will only limit me to, and there's no settings anywhere to fix it. There's no nothing. And so, kind of interested to see the results here, although a GoPro isn't quite what I'm looking for. But I've already got my eyes set. I think I know what I want. My mind's made up. I want the same camera that Prepper Nurse 1 has, because I know he's got it's a clear video. It's a Nikon, He's got clear video, and it does the Wi-Fi, so I can actually do live video right from the camera. And it's a camera, so that means pictures will be crystal clear. So that's the route I'm going to go, but I do want to see the difference here. The video, again, the channel is Let's Talk About Prepping. The video is GoPro H4 Hero 4 versus camera phone comparison. As soon as it lets me copy the link. All right, here we go.
Hey guys, you're watching Let's Talk About Prepping. I'm Tyler, your host, and in today's video, we're going to do a side-by-side footage comparison of my new GoPro camera and the camera that I've been using to make my videos so far. Even though the GoPro is an older generation Hero 4 and it's refurbished, the video and sound quality is really good. I'm really happy with it. Now, the camera that I've been using is an LG smartphone. It's a Walmart track phone. I got it for $130 just over a year ago. And the reason that I picked this one is because it had the highest ratio of megapixels to cost. The more expensive phones actually had worse cameras on them, and this one didn't have a very powerful processor or some of the capabilities that those phones had, but it had a really good camera. So I picked that one, and ever since then, it's really suited me well. But it is a camera phone, and in all of its use, I've actually already cracked it a couple times, and when the screen gets wet, even just in the slightest, it starts to malfunction and perform things that I didn't ask it to do. So it's still great. I still use it for editing because the programs are very cheap for it. But I do want something that not only is meant to do some of the things I want to do with it, but will allow me to be hands-free, and I won't have to worry about being exposed to the elements as much as a phone. Now, I plan on rotating my filming phone into use as my network phone and replacing it. So it's not a big deal that it gets put under hard use, but I do plan on treating this GoPro well and using it in the situations where I don't necessarily want to stick a phone in those conditions. I'll probably still use both to get multiple angles on things, and so what this is going to do is probably just double my footage file size, which is already becoming a little bit of an issue. I'm sure some of you other creators are aware of this. I don't know if you save your files or not. I've got hundreds of gigs of footage already, so I'm trying to figure out what to do with all of that. And this will only make it worse, but I'm really excited about the capabilities that it will give me. Now, we've been walking around on the chest rig so far, as I'm sure you've noticed. I'm about to switch to the head rig. I'm really happy with both of these mounting rigs. I was sort of worried that when it got right down to it, they might wobble a little bit, and I might have to figure something out to keep them stable. But it turns out that they're both really stable. I'm really happy with how they keep the camera attached to you. Even the helmet straps work really well just on your own head or on a hat. They keep the camera in place, and they're pretty comfortable. I could see myself wearing this for the whole 2-hour battery duration. Now, as for the features, when it comes to the software's resolution options, I'm pretty impressed. When it comes to resolution, it has anything ranging from 720 and WVGA, which is pretty low, through 960, 1080p, and 2.7 and 4K options. And when it comes to frame rates, it films in anywhere from 24 frames per second. Now, as a reference point, most YouTube videos are uploaded in about 30 frames per second. And this captures in up to 120 frames per second, which is higher than my smartphone's camera capturing software that I downloaded is capable of doing. So it's pretty impressive. I haven't tried the 120 This was filmed in 60 frames per second, and I'm noticing a lot of differences in what it's capable of capturing than over my phone. So it's pretty impressive. I'm very happy with it. There's a little bit of a fisheye effect because of the way that the lens is set up. It's made for wide angle for how small it is, but I'm really happy with it. Everybody's been pretty impressed that I've shown it to. So this is really awesome. I'm still going to use both, like I said, because they do both have their advantages, but this is really going to help with the channel.
Alright, here's the sound with the regular camera. And here's the sound with the GoPro inside the weatherproof case. And here's the sound with the regular camera again. And here's the sound with the GoPro outside of the weatherproof case. So, I'm really happy with it. This is really awesome. I think it's going to really help with the channel in the future. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.
That's pretty cool. Definite big difference there. Big difference. Oh, man. Yeah, the only thing I don't like about that Nikon, I think it's like an L840 or something like that, is there's no way to plug in an external microphone that I know of. I'm going to have to go look. Maybe I'll get the manual for that camera and see, because it may have a Bluetooth option or something for an external mic. I don't know. That is the one thing I really would like, is the ability to use an external mic. You know, that's the only thing that makes me hesitant on that Nikon. You know, I might be able to find a cheaper. I'm just scared to go with something that's not a known name at this point, after getting burned that time. And maybe the same company, the camera that I got, maybe their better model, their $149 model, maybe that's a decent camera. I just know that the one I got is junk. It's crap. And I'm not willing to take a chance again. That is one item, though, one feature that I really, really do want, is an external mic, the ability for that. So we'll see. I'll have to download the manual to that Nikon and look. It might have some type of capability. I don't think it's got a plug of any kind for a mic, but I think it's possible that it might have a Bluetooth connection for a mic. I'll have to look. Don't know. Anyway, next up, I've got a video from Josh Martinez. At least that's whose channel, YouTube channel, it's put up on. Now, let me give you a little bit of background into this before I put up the video. Josh Martinez was arrested. I'm trying to think of when it was. I'm not sure. I'm not sure when it was that he was arrested, but he had a court hearing. He had some supporters come to show up for his hearing. Okay, the people that showed up to support him got arrested. Okay. And they just happened to be First Amendment auditors that showed up in support of him. So anyway, this is a video on Josh Martinez's channel, and it's simply titled First Amendment Auditor Arrested.
Am I live? Looks frozen. Hello everyone, Joshua Martinez here. Not sure how the picture's coming out. I'm not sure if I'm getting good signal. Let's get a couple people on here. Alright, it looks like I'm getting some folks on. I don't know if some of you guys have heard, but there was an auditor arrested today by Metro PD here in Las Vegas. What's up, New Mexico citizen? Dan172, what's going on? Prince Vegeta was choked out today. Well, not choked out, but he was grabbed by the throat by an officer for auditing at a post office here in Las Vegas. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what kind of went down. So here it goes. I'm going to try to make this out to be a short live stream, but here you go.
Okay, so I want to make a quick correction. I was thinking this was happening like at the courthouse where he had his hearing. Apparently it's not. Apparently they went to do a First Amendment audit at a post office, and this is the video from that. I just wanted to make a correction. I didn't want to put out misinformation.
That's all you have to do is get in your car and drive away, right? We're doing a story on post office. Nobody's forced. You don't need a permit. We're out in public. Yes. Dude. We're not doing a story on them. You know, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. How about that? Go fuck yourself. How about that? Just get in your car and drive away. It'd be that easy. You could just get in your car and drive away, right?
Okay, you can record this and not me. And you still have to look. I don't get a fuck.
Good morning, officer.
Good morning. Step in my vehicle.
Everything's being recorded live on
That's
YouTube.
fine. I don't care. Step in the front of the vehicle. Step in the front of the vehicle.
This is where the assault happens, guys.
Sir, did I commit a crime? Is this a lawful order that you're giving me?
Are you being detained? You are being detained.
Whoa! Officer!
You can't do that. Thank you. Stand there. Stand next to him. Stand next to him. Put your phone down.
Are you live?
Stand right there. Thank you. Stand right here next to him. Thank you.
Sir, did I commit a crime?
Yeah,
what's the crime that we're suspected of committing?
Now you guys are going to be trespassing the property for the owner, for the employee.
I can't trust that.
Right now, everything's being recorded.
Yes.
Let me work through this. Do you mind?
Yes. Okay. You asked me to take
Okay. Let me work through this. You understand?
Yeah.
No, you can't. Place your hands on the car. Place your hands on the car, man. Thank you.
Can we get a supervisor, sir, please?
We'll get you right in a second. What's your name?
What crime have I committed?
Just ask what's your name.
Well, unless I'm being suspected of a crime, sir. I mean, we're scattering content for a story.
So, as I told you, right now, that's game plan trespassing. That's not required.
I'd like to call my lawyer.
Okay.
And you, sir, you told me everything's recorded live. You told me.
Got all these buckets in your hand, sir.
There's cameras, sir. And you told me that everything's being recorded.
Sorry, guys. Sorry about that, guys. I lost signal. Sorry about my desk.
without turning it off.
Farrington is the officer's name. Farrington. Thanks, Cal. Brian Farrington is the guy's name. Is the officer's name. All right, guys, there you go. I got a call earlier today, and I think Prince Vegeta was arrested. I think the charge was obstruction. So if we can get some folks to make some phone calls, and I know there's some other auditors en route to try to figure out what's going on. I'm not sure exactly what the charges are, but from what I understand, it's obstruction because he did not move fast enough. When they asked why the officer was arresting him, the officer said because you didn't move fast enough. Yet he was the first one at the hood of the car. He was complying. You saw both hands were occupied with cameras, so they can't say they lost sight of his hands. Guys, this is a problem here in Las Vegas. The officers we have here are out of control. They get so much support that they can do whatever they want. But it's time that even if we are the minority group as far as constitutionalists and auditors, we still need to speak up. Even if we are only a few, we still need to speak up and let them know that we will still hold them accountable. They lied on me. You guys can go back and watch some of my videos. I mean, I just uploaded a video last night or this morning. The officers arrested me basically for not giving my date of birth after they admitted I committed no crime. So this is a problem we have here in Las Vegas, guys, and I'm glad that we're getting more auditors here to remind these people that the true freedom lovers preserve the spirit of resistance. I mean, the officers here can say anything they want. We thought you had firearms. We thought you had a weapon. They can use any excuse because they know that blue line, that blue flag blinds the average person. And will get that person to believe anything these guys with badges and guns say. So guys, there you have it. Please, every single person in this video was there to support me at my hearing. So I want to put the call out and encourage everyone to help these folks as well. We got to have each other's back, just like High Desert said in his video. We all have to stick together, even if we have disagreements on certain topics. One thing that makes us common is our humanity. We are free, not because of the Constitution. The Constitution didn't grant us anything. It just clarifies the rights we already have as human beings. And the only rights you have are the ones you're willing to stand up and defend. These folks are willing to go and audit and exercise their First Amendment and hold people with badges and other government officials in check and hold them accountable. And this is the thanks they get. So guys, remember, these are inherent rights, whether you believe they're God-given or whether they're yours by because if you believe that you are the result of biological progression and that your rights are a gift by virtue of a force of nature, it does not matter. They did not come from government, and these guys have no business putting hands on people simply because they're offended. A camera is not a deadly weapon. It is a weapon because we can expose the corruption, we can expose organized crime, but it is not a weapon, and it is no excuse to lock someone up or handle someone in this way. Prince Vegeta, he's right there. You can see that picture. He's a human being. He is innocent. He is innocent. And they're treating him as though he is guilty. He didn't break no law. This officer was out of line. He did not conduct an investigation. He did not ask any questions to any people reporting. He just went and straight up grabbed the people with cameras. Why? Because the auditing community is growing and they fear that. And this is another fear tactic to show other people that they're going to treat everyone with a camera this way. They know that people who are monitored or abused by authority are less likely to be politically active. And folks, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Stand up. Stand up and you point your camera right back and you show them that you're not afraid. Okay? This is the first step to really having some kind of breakthrough. And the way revolutions start is by exercising your First Amendment. We don't want bloodshed. We don't want violence. We actually want our rights to be respected. We want change in our community, and we want to expose these thugs for what they truly are. And that right there, guys, is a freaking thug. So, love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Remember why we do this: God, country, and family. I love you all. Please don't forget these guys, okay?
Alrighty, let's see. Got a quick one here from Ron Paul Liberty Report. It's his weekly update. It's titled Bipartisan Attacks on the Second Amendment.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the weekly report. Bipartisan attacks on the Second Amendment. The House of Representatives recently passed legislation that would expand the national background check system to require almost everyone selling firearms, including private collectors who supplement their incomes by selling firearms at gun shows, to perform background checks on the potential buyers. The bill has a section purporting to bar creation of a national firearms registry. However, the expanded background check system will require the government to compile lists of those buying and selling guns. In other words, it creates a de facto national gun registry. Similar to the experience with other types of prohibition, making it more difficult to legally buy a gun will enhance the firearms black market. Criminals, terrorists, and even deranged mass shooters will thus have no problems obtaining firearms. It is no coincidence that the majority of mass shootings take place in gun-free zones, where shooters know their targets will be unarmed. This shows that any law making it more difficult for Americans to own and carry firearms makes us less safe. If Congress really wanted to reduce the incidence of gun violence, it would repeal the Gun-Free School Zones Act. This law leaves children easy prey for mass shooters by mandating that public schools be gun-free zones. A nationwide system of gun registration could be a step toward a national gun confiscation. However, anti-gun bureaucrats need not go that far to use the expanded background check system to abuse the rights of gun owners. Gun owners could find themselves subject to surveillance and even harassment, such as more intensive screening by the TSA, because they own too many firearms. Republican control of the White House and the Senate does not mean our gun rights are safe. Republicans have a long history of supporting gun control. After the 1999 Columbine shooting, many Republicans, including many who campaigned as being pro-Second Amendment, eagerly cooperated with then-President Bill Clinton on gun control. Some supposedly pro-gun Republicans also tried to pass compromise gun control legislation after the Sandy Hook shooting. Neoconservative Senator Marco Rubio has introduced legislation that uses tax dollars to bribe states to adopt red flag laws. Red flag laws allow government to violate an individual's Second Amendment rights based on nothing more than a report that the individual could become violent. Red flag laws can allow an individual's guns to be taken away without due process simply because an estranged spouse, angry neighbor, or disgruntled coworker tells police the individual threatened him or otherwise made him feel unsafe. President Trump has joined Rubio in wanting the government to, in Trump's word, take the guns first, go through the due process second. During his confirmation hearings, President Trump's new Attorney General, William Barr, expressed support for red flag laws. California Senator and leading gun control advocate Dianne Feinstein has expressed interest in working with Barr to deprive gun owners of due process. It would not be surprising to see left-wing authoritarians like Feinstein work with right-wing authoritarians like Barr and Roubier on compromised legislation containing both a national red flag law and expanded background checks. My years in Congress taught me that few politicians can be counted on to protect our liberties. Most politicians must be pressured to stand up for freedom by informed and involved pro-liberty citizens. That is why those of us who understand the benefits of liberty must remain vigilant against any attempt to erode respect for our rights, especially the right to defend ourselves against private crime and public tyranny. Thanks for listening.
Alrighty, got a video here from Survival Prepping for Normal People. It's titled Spring is in the Air, Thank God. I agree.
Hey guys, welcome back to Survival Prepping for Normal People. What I wanted to talk about in this video, it's getting, well, it will be springtime eventually. I know after this winter it's going to be hard for a lot of people to believe, but man, what a terrible winter. And it's slowly loosening its grip, and we'll be back to springtime shortly. If you are not a gardener, I cannot stress it enough, and I'm going to keep bringing this up probably every few days, okay, at least for the next couple weeks. It's going to be planting season very soon. There are some very basic things you can do if you're not a gardener. Those of you who are already gardeners, hobby gardeners, or serious gardeners, people that grow your own food in your backyard and you can it and preserve it and dehydrate it and all that stuff, that's awesome. So I'm not so much talking to you guys. I want to reinforce what you're doing. That's the right thing to do, okay? Food is obviously one of the keys to human survival, right? There really aren't that many keys. Water, food, shelter, safety, keeping a low profile. Those are probably all things that are definitely going to increase your odds of survival in an emergency situation exponentially, right? If you do nothing, then you may get lucky and bumble and stumble your way through the dark and survive. But luck is not a plan. So probably better to make a plan, have some skills, have some supplies. But it's going to be springtime soon. It's going to be time to start planning things. So a few things you can do. If you are not familiar with the Farmer's Almanac, okay, if you live in the suburbs, on the outskirts of town, maybe in the countryside or out in the country, go to your local farm supply place, okay? It'll be a place that sells seeds, animal feed, hay, things like that. They've got chain stores now like Tractor Supply. It's a good place to go and look for these kind of things. Get a Farmer's Almanac. It'll have the suggested planting times for your region, okay? They'll give it to you by region. You can even look on the back of a pack of seeds. I suggest you get, obviously, non-GMO heirloom seeds. Why is it important to get heirloom seeds? It's important to get heirloom seeds because you can harvest the seeds from part of your crop, dry those seeds, and if you store them properly, that's a whole different video, but if you dry those seeds and store them properly, you can use them next year, and they will reproduce. A big push for the last 20 to 30 years is to have these genetically modified hybrid seeds that will only yield a crop one time. Yeah, they come with all kinds of benefits, like they need less water, they need less pesticide, they need less sunlight, whatever. All these different things they'll tell you. They have built-in insect resistance and all kinds of other stuff. You know, the things that they get in your intestines and make you feel so good after you eat all that kind of junk. Anyhow, those seeds are specifically designed to not be able to produce more than one crop. So they'll produce a crop, but once you grow that crop, let's say you wanted to save some seed corn back from some corn that you grew, and you try to plant that, it wouldn't produce again. Wow, isn't that interesting? So you have to go back to Monsanto or whoever and buy the seeds for next year. Yeah, that was not accidental, obviously. They want you to do that. So back in the old days, though, before people could just go down to the local feed and seed or whatever, the farm supply place, they would have to harvest seeds from their crop, put them away, Make sure they were kept safe from rodents and pests and other things, birds that love to eat seeds, and you could use them next year. So get your seed packets, make sure it says heirloom seeds on there. They're a little more expensive, but there's a reason, because these crops can produce year after year after year, okay? And the cool thing about it is, with heirloom seeds, and there's been tons of studies done, and I've done a ton of reading on it, and I've noticed it when I do my gardening, is that if you save seeds from mature plants that you harvest from wherever it is that you grow them, your local area, your backyard, your field, you know, if you're into guerrilla gardening and there's an empty field next door to you and nobody notices, hey, go over there and plant you a little patch of whatever. Okay, however you got to do it, okay? If you live in an apartment or a duplex or a townhome or whatever, and you got a patio that gets sunlight, get you a couple little planter boxes like you plant flowers in and plant some freaking tomatoes or something in there, okay? Lots of ways to do it. Tons of gardening videos on the internet, tons of gardening videos on YouTube. Lots of different ways to garden. If you can't do that, then learn how to sprout stuff, okay? But figure out a way to produce food, right? In case there is a prolonged situation where supply lines are interrupted and food is not readily available. Being able to grow things is an amazing skill. And a lot of people say, oh, gardening is a waste of time. Okay, that's fine. When you're hungry, that's cool. I'm going to be enjoying my non-GMO heirloom seed salad. Thank you very much. So anyway, look on the back of the seed packet. It'll show you by region in North America, and it'll show you the best time to plant it, and it'll also tell you how long it takes for it to mature to get to where you can harvest it, where it's actually ripe. Okay, it's almost time to start doing that in most places. Where I'm at, it's going to be like within the next week or two. I've got a patio that I'm not using. Last year I did my garden out back, so I'm probably not going to do it there again. And I had some issues, and I started looking into it and talking to other gardeners in my area. A couple years ago, we had a major flood here. I don't know if you guys remember Hurricane Harvey. It was kind of a big deal for us because this hurricane came in off the ocean, and it came in about 300 miles south of where I live on the Gulf Coast. Okay, so it came in near Corpus Christi, Texas, right? City about 200,000 so people, in a decent sized little town, but it's got a lot of oil and gas refineries and things there. So anyway, the storm came in there, and I got two older brothers that live there. So I was like kind of, you know, hey, are you guys okay? And all that kind of stuff, really monitoring the situation. So the storm came in, and it did a weird thing. As it came in, it hooked, and it started going back to the east and north, which brought it more toward the Houston area, which is the fourth largest city in the United States. So, and that's close to where I live. I don't live in the city. I'm about 4 days walk by foot. Okay, so not a bad distance, but I'm out in the countryside. I'm not, you know, I'm close enough to the city. If I gotta go to the doctor, it doesn't take me all day to get there. But I'm far enough out where, you know, I got a little bit of warning time before the zombie hordes show up, and I've got a plan for that. Anyway, so get yourself some gardening supplies, whatever it is you think you can take on. Now remember, it requires a lot of work. Plants are living things. You've got to pay attention to them. You've got to watch them. You've got to keep the bugs off of them. You've got to make sure they get adequate sunlight and not too much. You've got to make sure they get adequate water and not too much. You got to make sure they have decent soil, you know, and it's got the, you don't want to dump a bunch of fertilizer in there, high in nitrates and stuff, and burn the plants up. Learning how to grow food is such an important skill. I cannot emphasize it enough. It's probably number 2 behind learning how to make sure you get clean drinking water. Okay, you can die without water in 3 days, right? That's the average person. Some people sooner, some people can last a little bit longer. Some people can go 20 days without food. Some people can go 60 days without food, but that's not something you want to find out the hard way, right? How long can you live without starving to death? Children starve faster than adults. Obese people starve faster than people who would have a thinner or more typical, a normal body type, right? They would look like they have a lot of reserves, but they don't. Their body requires so much input all the time, and that's why people get sick and have all kinds of problems when they go on crash diets if they're severely overweight. So I don't recommend that you go buy the T-shirt that says, I'm not fat, I'm a prepper. You know, it's funny at first, but you know, I do laugh and joke a lot, but that's just to break the tension, right? Because the things we talk about are so serious. I mean, deadly serious. That's why I think it's extremely difficult for survival and prepping channels to become successful. Because it's not like I'm on here giving you tips on how to wax your car. I'm not giving you tips on how to prune your azaleas, okay? We're talking about life and death shit, and every show involves that, whether it's some kind of philosophical show that I'm doing to get you to start thinking about things, or it's recommendations that I make, or hey, you know, this is coming, you look at this, or these current events are going on, pay attention. But the ability to produce food buys you independence, okay? Now, I'm not saying you need to grow enough food to feed your entire neighborhood. If you can, that's badass. Then by all means. And you know, you guys that are serious gardeners, you understand the kind of input that takes, and that'd be a full-time job. But if it's grid down, shit hit the fan, what else you got to do anyway, right? You're not going to be fighting zombies all the time. So get yourself a fairly secured or securable location, take care of that, and start growing some shit. Become a farmer. Farmers will be kings, believe me. In a serious situation, a survival situation, food is what matters. Okay, so get your stuff. Look on the back of the seed packet. Buy a farmer's almanac. You can go to those stores like I talked about, and there'll be books on there. Gardening basics, gardening 101, growing shit you can eat, whatever you want to call it. Okay, read, do, learn, try. Like I've said before, talking about gardening, if you're going to fail at growing food, do it now while you can still go to the store and buy food. Okay? Don't wait or be that person that orders this big bucket of survival seeds. You got your own Svalbard seed vault stashed away somewhere in the corner of your closet, buried under stuff that you don't use, under old high school yearbooks and shit. And you're waiting for the end of the world to come, and now all of a sudden you're going to go out there and sprout a green thumb. Not so easy. So anyway, I was talking to people in my area because I was having trouble last year, and I didn't do one the first year after. I didn't do a garden the first year after the storm. I waited, right? And there are a lot of plants, a lot of oil refineries and stuff in my general area and all along the Gulf Coast. And I was talking to a lot of other gardeners in my region, and they were having similar problems because the soil, while the EPA wouldn't call it contaminated, when you get 60 inches of rain, okay, it rained 61 inches at my house in 3 days. And that was typical for the area. It was literally biblical FUD. In California, they call it an arc storm. And it's happened in the past, and it's going to happen there again, where the storms set up, they kind of straddle the coastline. They're kind of halfway over the ocean and halfway over the land. And they're basically a giant water pump. And they just suck water and moisture off of the ocean, and they dump it onto the land. So we had this issue. And everything flooded. I mean, for hundreds of miles around. And so I've been talking to the other people that I know that garden, and I asked them if they'd been having similar issues that I'd been having about the plants not wanting to take, the roots not doing what they should, all these other things. And they're like, yeah, but have you thought about the fact that there was all this crap floating around? I mean, literally and figuratively. Stuff from these chemical plants, these refineries, all this other stuff. And I don't know why it didn't dawn on me. I work in those places. I know what kind of stuff is in there, right? And so if it gets out and it's just like, you know, a few drops per million here and there, and it doesn't take a lot, well, the soil got a little contaminated, and people's lawns aren't acting right, you know, some trees have died. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not apocalyptic contamination, and it does rain a lot here. So, you know, probably after a few months or a year or so, it's mostly diluted. But I was having issues, and I hadn't really thought about that much. So I built a raised bed, and then it started to rain. I had got my garden going. The little plants were looking good. I did some videos on it, and it started raining in September, and I was going to do a fall garden, and the rain literally just beat my plants to death. I tried covering them with things, and it was just a nightmare. It was ridiculous, so I kind of just cut my losses and gave up on that. So I'm going to do a spring garden, but I got this patio, and it's like a 16 by 12. It's a pretty decent sized patio, and it gets pretty good sunlight most of the day. So I'm going to do like some bucket, like container type gardening things. And I wanted to do that because not everybody can just go till up their backyard. I get that. Okay. So I wanted to do some container type gardening, and I'm going to do some videos about that. What I'm going to do, what I'm going to get, what I'm going to plant, how I'm going to do it, which way you arrange the plants. And you can look at, and the cool thing about containers, you can move them around. So if you've got plants like okra, it gets really tall, right? So if you've got okra and it's blocking the sun from your other plants, well, you just switch them around. You put it at the far end, and it gets sun all day, and the little plants get sun as the sun rises. All these different kind of things you got to think about. There is so much that goes into growing food. People think of farmers as very simplistic people, but farming is an exacting science. And the fact that 2% of the American population can feed the rest of us, plus a large portion of the world, attests to the ability of these people. Okay, so it's starting to be spring, and if you've never grown anything before, I'm telling you, it is very satisfying to take this little packet, this little container of plant DNA, and you put it in the dirt, and you nurture it, and you watch it grow, and it grows into something, and then it matures, and you can eat it. And there's nothing. I'm telling you guys, the best salad you'll ever eat is one that you grew yourself. It's an amazing, amazing thing. And it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And you can get good at it. After a few years, people usually become pretty proficient at gardening. People say, well, I don't have a green thumb. I kill everything I try to grow. A lot of times it's because people just don't pay the proper amount of attention to it. Now, I'm not saying you need to be out there 12 hours a day. But, an hour or two a day. And the ability to generate food, I'm telling you, it's going to give you a lot of confidence, and it's going to teach you a lot of things. Not just about gardening, but then it's going to get all zen and you start learning shit about the universe that you didn't know or whatever. Expand your horizons. Learn to grow something. It's amazing. But it's getting to be that magical time of year, spring. I love it. Kind of a renewal of everything. I get all earthy, and I kind of tap into my inner hippie, and I really, really dig the spring, no pun intended. But so I'm going to be doing that, and start looking into the information now. Do a Google search, whatever it is you got to do. Grow some food. It's an amazingly satisfying pastime, and it can save your life. And you don't know, some people have a talent for it. They really do. Some people do have a green thumb. My mother-in-law is an amazing gardener. I mean, she could just throw seeds on the dirt and step on it, and a week later she'll have this giant garden just full of vegetables. It just blows my mind. But she grew up on a farm. That's what they did. That's how they earned their living, and that's how they fed themselves. They ate what they grew and sold the rest, and that's how they paid for their clothes and shoes and their house and things like that. So, and my mom's the same way. She grew up on a farm. So I'm lucky in a way because I have ready resources where I can say, hey, I'm having trouble with my zucchini. Can you come over here and look at this and tell me what to do? So I was lucky, and I paid attention to the things that they do, and I've gotten a lot of tips from them over the years. And I grew gardens with my mom's kid, but I still remember that stuff. So teach your kids how to grow food. It can be a lot of fun, and it involves so many different things. It's got science, it's got math, it's got nature, and at the end it tastes so good. It's just unbelievable. So once you do that, then if you can grow some food, we'll talk about ways to preserve food, that you can do it yourself, the type of equipment you would need, another skill that will be invaluable. Survival and prepping is a relatively new thing in our society. It really is. But 100 years ago, people just called it living because everybody was a survivor and a prepper. But when things got convenient and you had supermarkets with aisles and aisles of food just there for the picking, well, those skills weren't needed as much anymore. Doesn't hurt to have skills. Being able to grow food can save your life. Thanks for being here, guys. Thank you for being on the team.
All righty. Let's see. Can't wait to hear his other one that he's got. Let me go ahead right now, though, and go to, I'm curious what this is. Angry American has a video out titled Angry American TV Updates. So I'm hoping this is about the TV show. Not really sure. I guess we'll find out.
Hey guys, I want to take a quick minute to do a video for you. I know it's been a long time since the page has been updated, and I sincerely apologize for that, but there's been a lot going on. We're going to cover a couple of updates today. I know everybody's probably curious about the TV production that's ongoing. There's been some major things happen on that I can't really talk about yet, but it's coming, and we'll get into depth on it when I can. I just can't say anything about it yet. But what I want to talk to you about today is some of the current happenings around the globe. You know, Trump just had a summit with Kim Jong-un. That fell apart. They ended it quickly, and then when Kim left Hanoi, he went straight back to Pyongyang with no stops. That was a bit of a tell that there was an issue there. And then almost immediately after he gets home, yesterday there's a 2.9 magnitude quake detected, or quake-like event detected in North Korea. So that means one of a few things. They're either blasting a tunnel to prepare for another test, or they conducted some kind of a small yield test. They're also working on one of their launch facilities and getting it back in order very rapidly for potential tests, or possibly they may claim satellite launches. The real problem with that is all the news about the construction on the launch facility came out after the summit was over, but obviously our government knew about it leading up to it because it's just now being made available to us. So Trump knew when he was in Hanoi meeting with him that they were working on these launch facilities again. So this is something to keep an eye on. Kim has started his hostile rhetoric again about North Korea or South Korea and the U.S. military exercises, and of course about the sanctions and stuff. So it looks like that might be heating up a little bit again. As if there wasn't enough going on in that region of the world between India and Pakistan. If you guys have been following that, that started with a suicide bombing in India that killed 40 Indian soldiers. This led to a cross-border incursion into Pakistan by the Indian Air Force to bomb targets that the Pakistanis say were not hit. The Indians say they were hit. Anyway, it went round and round. It ended up with a Indian MiG being shot down by the Pakistanis, potentially with an F-16, which violates our deal with Pakistan for the F-16. So there's that whole issue now to deal with as well. But the Pakistanis released the Indian pilot unharmed and in short order, actually. It shows that there are some level heads in play, but Modi, the PM of India, is very hostile. He's got an election coming up, and he's trying to bank on this hostility over the Kashmir region, which is what these two nations are fighting over. There's still ongoing contact at what they call the line of contact in Kashmir, where the two nations basically meet over this disputed area. It's daily artillery exchanges, multiple launch rocket systems are being used, anti-tank guided missiles are being used, as well as aircraft, attack helicopters and things like that. So it's still ongoing. And then yesterday, there was another suicide bombing on a bus in India that killed 10 civilians. So we're waiting to see how Modi's going to respond to that. You know, he's responded pretty quickly to the bombing of 40 of his soldiers. What's he going to do about the civilians? Anyway, it's hot over there now. I mean, they're actually shooting at one another. It's turned into a hot shooting war. It's not necessarily a war yet, but it's definitely a border conflict. And the real issue is that both of these guys are nuclear powers, and India, their stated protocol is first strike. You know, they know Pakistan has nukes. Both these countries have them. And we all need to be concerned about that. If these guys start lobbing even regional nukes at one another, it would be a huge problem. And that's what gets me is our national media barely even covers this. They're hardly even talking about it. But this is a concern to us. I know a lot of you are going to go, it's India and Pakistan that bother me. You let them start setting off some nukes and it's going to bother all of us. In addition to the Pakistan and India issue is still the Ukrainian issue and what Russia's doing. Russia's becoming more and more hostile. They just recently officially backed out of the INF. They have been unofficially out of the INF for some time now. But things are building there in Ukraine, which we're back in the Ukrainian side. The Russians are backing the separatists in Donbass area and Luhansk. And there are tens and tens of thousands of Russian soldiers just over the border in Russia in that region. Now it's being claimed through the defection of a recent female commander in Donbass that the area is already full of Russians and the Russian soldiers are already there and that they're actively engaged in this. Remains to be seen, really. There's been no proof other than her words of that. But there have been a number of Russians spotted over there, and we know that Russia is supplying them all their weapons and hardware and everything else. So that's not going to calm down anytime soon. But it's a potential conflict area for us because we're there as well supporting the Ukrainians and training them and things like that. And then the Russians have now started pushing things out too into the sea. Sea of Azov, there was an incident where they fired on some Ukrainian Coast Guard vessels and took the crews prisoner, captured the vessels even. So that's heating up a little bit as well. So those are a number of things on the international front we need to be watching. Domestically, if you live in Sacramento or in California, you're probably well aware of the riots that are currently taking place in the evenings, and it's kind of weird that these protesters work bankers' hours in Sacramento and other cities with BLM and Antifa over the police shooting that was just ruled justifiable, and no charges are being filed against an officer for shooting a young black guy there, even though he was unarmed. The actions he was taking, even the state decided not to press charges against the officer. It was that clear kind of a shooting. But it stirred up BLM and Antifa, and they're rioting in the streets and doing the kind of things they typically do. We'll have to see if this gets any traction and spreads any farther, like it did when Ferguson happened in Baltimore and things like that. But so far right now it's contained to California. Just something to keep an eye on. There's been rumblings, of some far left movement happening in a very antagonistic way. But again, we haven't seen anything yet. But we have to be careful of the things we hear and what we believe based on that stuff. There's a lot of hearsay out there, and I try to forward the things to you guys that are legitimately happening and potentially could happen as a way they're staging. So just wanted to give you guys some updates. We're going to try to do these more frequently, at least once a week. We're going to get you guys another little clip up, as well as some new blog posts. I know the blog is way overdue. I have some stuff ready for you guys, and we'll get it in the works. We're going to talk a little bit about what was happening in France as well with the yellow vests and that sort of thing. It's died down a little bit. We're still going to cover that as well. So until next time, check out the page. Hit the shop for any of your swag that you want. Signed book, the box set is out. The signed books are there. T-shirts, hats, patches, stickers, you name it, it's all there. So until next time, this is Chris. See you guys later.
Alrighty. Been a crazy busy man, and then unfortunately his father passed away just very, very recently, so my thoughts have been with him on that. Reading his books, his father's in the books too, and it's kind of a bummer, It's just kind of a bummer to know that in real life that he had passed. But anyway, go ahead and grab you another video here. Got one from Full Spectrum Survival titled "Warning: Scientists are planning to black out the sun and New York City to be declared bankrupt."
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Full Spectrum Survival News. Today is Tuesday, March the 12th of the year 2019. New York City is headed for financial ruin, and it could go bankrupt for the very first time in the last 40 years. That is according to economists who predict that there are already signs that the city, of course just one among hundreds in the U.S., is headed for a serious financial disaster. The following quote is from a leading economist who explains what is wrong, not just with New York City, but with the entire way that our financial system is set up, lending to the fact that we live in a world that lives on debt, and debt alone, never bearing fruit prior to having an entity to pay off in an eternal indebtedness that will ruin the world during times of extreme financial hardship. The quote, "The city is running a deficit. New York is already a difficult financial spot, but it would be an impossible situation if we have any kind of financial setback." The New York of today, known for its high-rise buildings, extremely expensive living conditions, billionaires, and a never-turned-off scenery of lights and movement, will be the Chicago of tomorrow during a financial disaster, according to financial analysts. Can you imagine these concrete giants of New York becoming the slums where squatters reside in a drug-filled utopia of distraction from financial reality? In other news, geoengineering is a very real threat to humanity that the mainstream and the powers that are in control of the media would like to keep veiled under the curtain of conspiracy, quickly labeling anyone who dares question trends in the scientific community that are looking to alter the environment using chemical compounds a theorist who has no basis in reality or fact for their fanciful ideas regarding the science. Geoengineering, however, is a very real science that is on an upward trend across the entire world, where it is openly practiced in countries like China, whose citizens have very little say in the potentially dangerous activities that are undertaken by their government bodies. and more hidden here in the West, as the majority in our world do not trust in a government body's ability to walk the thin line between weather control, its manipulation, and warfare, using the very same techniques and practices, not to mention the very real danger that outcomes of scientific experiments could be negatively predicted, leading to a world that sits in worse shape than it is today when scientists start creating these changes. A report was released yesterday, March the 11th, by scientists who were discussing blocking the sun artificially, cooling the planet through chemical means, in a project that is receiving government inquisition and enough approval in the government to move it forward, to the opposition of large numbers of researchers who warn that we may be creating our own cataclysm if this type of artificial manipulation is allowed to take place. From a report on the issue, the blocking of sunlight might seem like a quick fix to alter temperatures, but doing so could quickly tie up humanity in a decades-long project with alarming side effects, such as shifting weather patterns, deadly extreme weather events, and changes in hurricane seasons, and of course their severity. Knowing this, we are placing ourselves in the guillotine. That warning comes from researchers against mankind's alteration of the world around us. Those researchers are among a growing group in the scientific community that have been shunned by colleagues and, of course, the corporate media alike for their opposition of weather control. They suggest that governments should focus on sustainability today, not reactive control measures. They also warn that bad practices in sustainability will not cease to exist just because we place chemicals into the air in order to alter the sun's effect on our planet. Bad practices will in fact get worse because they're hidden, hastening the rate at which mankind removes itself from a symbiotic future, and in doing so, worsening the planet for our children's children. In other news, the socio-political disaster in Venezuela has no end in sight. On top of an already existing shortage of food and medicine due to an ongoing economic collapse in that country and the breaking of the social bond, the one that holds citizens together in both their confidence of the paper trade of money and in their certainty that their neighbors, as well as their government, do not wish to harm them. Residents are now surviving a long-duration power outage in the country and infrastructural emergency, one that is leaving most without access to medicine necessary for the continuity of life. The pictured here, named Rosa, is one such survivor, a diabetic and with the cold chain of insulin broken because of its need to remain refrigerated and no electricity to remain viable. Many like her have been forced to scramble in an attempt to get access to ice in order to keep their life-saving medicine in working order. Rosa, though we're not certain, of course, that that is her real name, is instead looking toward Mother Nature, the world around us, in an attempt to regain control of her own personal health crisis during this ongoing disaster, taking part in the survival phase of this emergency. A diabetic, she relies on insulin to sustain life. Knowing the trials of insulin, she is gathering natural alternatives in an attempt to remain in control of her situation. Not knowing if or when the power will be restored in that country, and then, even when it is, how long it will be until she is able to receive new medication, she is turning instead to the neem tree. According to research that we have performed here at Full Spectrum Survival with vast studies that are published by the National Institute of Health, researchers show that neem, in varying forms and extracts of all parts of the tree, is a viable treatment for diabetes. The following is directly from one such study. A study was undertaken to evaluate the 70% alcoholic neem root bark extract in diabetes, and results show that neem root bark extract showed statistically significant results in 800 milligram to kilogram dosage. Another experiment was performed to examine the pharmacological hypoglycemic action in diabetic rats, and results showed that in a glucose tolerance test with neem extract at 250 milligrams per kilogram, demonstrated glucose levels were significantly less than compared to control groups. In wrap-up, neem showed a good oral glucose tolerance and significantly reduced the intestinal glucosidase activity with another important study, one that suggested that leaf extracts of the neem tree, as Rosa was taking, have significant anti-diabetic activity that could be a potential source for treatment of diabetes. This story of survival, of course, is a reminder to us all. Western pharmaceuticals, while they of course have a place in the treatment of individuals, they are also a trap. One that tricks the suffering into believing that chemical pharmacy is magic, and only its practitioners can provide life extension. a simply untrue sentiment of reality when most drugs in the Western pharmaceutical world and their toolbox have been post-production of natural medicinal properties. No matter what your affliction is, no matter what one of your family or groups might suffer from, please seek out natural alternatives now, so that when a disaster strikes in your area, you're going to be more prepared to handle the fallout of out-of-reach medical care and stability. As always, we'll be posting the links to each one of these stories, including Rosa's, to Full Spectrum Survival on our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Full Spectrum Survival. This week's Full Spectrum News is also being brought to us in part by MRENation.com, a resource for meals that are ready to eat. You can choose your own ration package, you can look at international ones, or choose from one of the hundreds that they have available. If you use the code FSS10, you'll receive 10% off of your entire order. As always, from Kelly and I to you and yours, please stay safe and keep watch.
Alrighty. Yeah, but once things get sticky in the book, there'll be a lot less time for the long descriptions and stuff like that. Things get sticky pretty quick. You know, book one is a lot of setup of the story and what's going on and stuff like that. But it does start to get sticky towards the end of it. Book two, you're like full on sticky. It's pretty incredible stuff. So it is a book though. So they go into a lot of description. That's kind of, you know, it's kind of the point. I think, you know, as somebody that, you know, I'm kind of a new reader. I like it because it gives me a really good visualization and a feel for it. Although I have to say that can be entirely inaccurate, and the reason I say that is because I had in my mind what his little subdivision looked like that he lives at in my head, and I had it all in my mind. And still do. And same with, well, there's a guy in the book you'll come across. His name's Danny. He's like his best friend, Morgan's best friend. And from reading the book, I had it set in my mind what Danny's house looked like. I mean, I could see it, right? Totally wrong. Totally wrong. Danny's house is a cabin made out of logs. But I still, to this day, see it as for some reason, a two-story house with vinyl siding, yellow. That's what I see in my head, although it's never said that in the book. It's what it is. But anyway, let's see here. Lots of stuff here. Let me go ahead and do this one from Pulse Change here. It's titled, Facebook Wants Your Mind While They Ban Zero Hedge.
So in this video, we are going to be talking about all the wonderful things about Facebook. Zero Hedge looks like it's being blocked right now, Elizabeth Warren's ads, AI killer robots, and also a mind-reading machine. All wonderful topics when it comes to this great, very fair and honest social media platform that so much cares about your privacy, right, Jason?
Yeah, they care about your privacy, all right, with all the ACR software, the automated content recognition that your little magical box and all your little devices all use, and they have the microphones, and they listen into the metadata, and they build the profile, and then they sell you the consumer goods and not the pudding. I didn't want to go too far there. The point is...
don't mention any Bill Cosby references with that specific thing. But the article you sent me is shocking in itself without the Bill Cosby pudding in there. Reading, Zuckerberg wants Facebook to build a mind-reading machine. I mean, this doesn't surprise me. I mean, on this broadcast, we talked about how many countries have already established pre-crime capabilities, minority report capabilities. With our latest video, the Chinese social credit system is already here. So again, this doesn't surprise me. What's the bigger kind of takeaway you got from this crazy article, Jason?
Well, it just seems to me that this is the direction they're moving in, and when I say the direction they're moving on. It's beyond Facebook. So right now, Facebook is trying to build this interface with your brain. They're going to try to stay relevant beyond just websites or mobile devices. They realize that augmented reality, even virtual reality, and I hate to say this, but cyborg type technology it's here. It's here. It's not.
Are we talking about that UFC fighter that's really tough and could beat anyone up?
We are not talking about her, and she can't beat anyone up. She got knocked out by Nunes. It was a great moment in sports history. Besides the point.
She's still terrifying. I would not want to see her down an alleyway. Go on. Sorry.
No, I absolutely would not want to see her down an alleyway either. The point being that Facebook isn't the only one looking to have this type of device. In fact, Elon Musk talked at length with Joe Rogan about his plans to release Neuralink. And he said he was about to announce the product. This is now months and months ago. This is all the way back in September. We haven't heard much about it. And, of course, they use the famous Jean-Luc Picard Borg picture here. But he is talking about neurotechnology and human enhancement. And that's something even beyond Neuralink that he's talked about. And when he talked to Rogan, he said, we're basically cyborgs now, which I would disagree with. By the way, Luke, he said, we're basically cyborgs now, but the phone just isn't implanted in you. It's still with you all the time. And in that respect, he's correct. The technology is accessible, but it has still not become part of my biology. Now,
but he also went on during that interview, and if you scroll down through that CNBC article, you also have him smoking a joint with Joe Rogan. He also went on and said pretty much artificial intelligence won, and it's about us coexisting somehow because the battle is already lost. The artificial intelligence is a whole other aspect that I'm going to get into later here, but this does make sense, Jason, because we saw Facebook invest a lot of money into artificial reality, augmented reality, with the goggles, with the companies that they bought up. So this definitely does make sense into the trajectory that they're going into.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk have kind of sparred over this. They feuded over AI, killer robots, and
New York Times. They literally were arguing over killer robots because, again, these guys are on the precipice. These guys are the biggest tech valley kind of billionaires out there, and the conversation was definitely terrifying with Elon Musk talking about how Mark Zuckerberg has a very limited understanding of artificial intelligence, with Mark Zuckerberg being like, we're going to be doing a lot more work with artificial intelligence, which is extremely dangerous, Jason. I mean, we had Vladimir Putin, even on the public stage, talk about how artificial intelligence, AI, will be as big and as important as a nuclear bomb and a nuclear weapon, with just the vast amount of power that this new technological advancement has. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead, Jason.
No, you're absolutely right. When we talk about the future, and even Musk talking about, artificial intelligence, Neuralink, people becoming more and more reliant on being interfacing with their biology, he is talking about DARPA. In these articles in CNBC, DARPA, U.S. government funded, of course, they're openly talking about these projects. And look, there's a help versus hurt humanity here, right? So in other words, it's great that we now are able to create artificial limbs that people can literally use their mind and they control. The Luke Skywalker hands and arms. Those are a reality. Those are helping. And I totally get that. Cochlear implants for people that can't hear at all. That's wiring right directly into their brain. It's not using the sound wave and the same. That's directly to your brain. It's not using your eardrum. That's helping humanity. But with the weird obsessions we already have, Luke, in our culture based on our appearance, right? All these people that need plastic surgery, that are unsure of their gender identity, people identifying as dogs and aliens at this point. Can you imagine the level it will be when you can physically augment your biology with technology? Can you imagine what people are going to be identifying as? I mean, it's a real problem to me. I think we have to realize not only the threat of AI and weapons and that sort of thing, but we have to be worried about losing our souls and humanity.
Yeah, not only identifying, but also the capabilities of having special access for the privileged class, for, of course, shutting off access to people who criticize you, which, brings up a very important point with what Facebook is doing. And again, this being in the hands of Facebook is absolutely terrifying, because Mark Zuckerberg has pretty much been classified as the literal kind of crackhead who's willing to suck on certain objects for crack, the crack being your private information, to sell it to the highest bidder. He this is literally the analogy that people are talking about him in the kind of tech Silicon Valley, since Facebook has been so apparent and so crystal clear in just not caring about any aspect of the user and just selling you to the highest bidder. So this kind of advancement being placed in Facebook, absolutely terrifying, with also latest reports of Zero Hedge now being banned, and also advertisements by presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren, who had ads talking about how Facebook has too much power. Those ads were brought down because of alleged corporate logo violations, and they were, of course, temporarily taken down because of the controversy around it, and the irony, of course, it was taken back up, and because supposedly a spokesperson from Facebook said it believes in restoring this robust debate, which is absolute bullcrap. They only care about profit. That's what we know about Facebook. And again, this does signal to me what many people are saying and what Elizabeth Warren is saying, and I never thought I would agree with this tribal elder as much as I am right now, but she's saying that the removal is a sign that Facebook and other tech giants do hold too much power, and I do agree with that. And with these latest technological advancements, we have to consider the larger implications. Anything else you want to say about this important issue, Jason?
Well, I do like the fact that Facebook had to fold. And Elizabeth Warren, I'm not going to sit here and talk about how great Elizabeth Warren is, but when she talks about breaking up Facebook, now Apple, these large companies like Google, it's a good thing. We haven't really had any trust busting in our lifetimes. The last time that really there was trust busting, it was Ma Bell. And when we were talking about landlines, Luke, we haven't been talking about landlines in quite some time with this generation. So I think it's wrong that they obviously censored her ads, but it's not out of line with what they've been doing openly. I mean, again, when you talk about Zero Hedge, we could talk about Dan Dix and Press for Truth and the anti-media and tons of different independent news organizations that have just been taken off their platform. And remember, people like Cernovich actually have lawsuits against them because they paid for ads and they did not get the broad distribution that they were supposed to for those payments. So there's legal action being set against these people. They're trying to put on a facade. Eventually something will have to happen.
As well as the latest information coming from Project Veritas, obviously time and time again proving just absolute gerrymandering and abuse of power. And I think it's fair to say that they have too much of it. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section below. If you agree with it, share this video with your friends and family members, because it's probably not going to be in your Facebook timeline. I think we can all agree on that there's a lot of gerrymandering, and it's pretty much up to you as the consumer of independent media to make sure that it survives. And one way of doing that is by sharing information. So we appreciate all you amazing people who are doing that, especially on our backup channel that we're building up 3 videos a day. Stay tuned 7 days a week here on youtube.com/Luke. We're going to change the name, by the way. But regardless, stay tuned for more.
Alrighty, let's see. Let me go ahead and do the other video from hang on. Trying to find it. Survival Prepping for Normal People. Here it is. It's titled Hindsight is 2020.
Hey guys, welcome back to Survival Prepping for Normal People. This is a subject I've been wanting to talk about, but hadn't really formulated a way to put it together and present it for you guys. I'd done a couple of videos kind of leading up to where I was going, so I'll kind of start with a short summation of what I was talking about in those other videos and tie it into this. But a lot of people ask me what I see as the next dangerous thing on the horizon, kind of like a Y2K or a 2012 or whatever you want to call it. You know, sometimes we look out and we see these events and people are like, oh my God, this is going to happen or that's going to happen, and they start making preparations or whatever. And, you know, thank goodness it comes to pass and nothing happens. But there was talk back before the 2016 election about how Barack Obama was going to suspend the Constitution and there wasn't going to be an election and he was going to declare himself Kenyan for life and all these other things everybody was saying. And of course that didn't come true, which is also a good thing. But, you know, there had been no legal basis for it. But hey, when's that ever stopped the government from doing something just because it was illegal? Right? So anyhow, looking down the road and after much internet discussion with viewers and friends and subscribers and people over there on my Patreon page, I think the next big thing that I can see that's a predictable thing, we have a due date for this particular thing, would be the 2020 election. And I'm going to tell you why it concerns me. Referencing back to a video I did about the Electoral College. And I still don't understand why it's so hard for people to, not necessarily grasp, but to understand the necessity why there needs to be an electoral college in a system like we have. Our system was never set up for the chief executive, which is the president, to be chosen by popular vote of the people. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The chief reason among those is that each state was represented in an electoral system. So the Constitution allows for the states to decide how they declare their electors. Their electors get sent to the Electoral College. They cast their vote for the president. Okay, now, the way it works, or has worked since it was instituted and up till just recently, is let's say Texas has, I think, 38 congressional members or 36, something like that. Anyway, it's quite a few. It's one of the top 2, 3, or 4 states with electors. So anyhow, let's say that a person wins the majority of the vote in Texas, whether it's a Democrat, Republican, third party, whatever. They win all those electoral votes. So they pick the people that are going to represent them at the Electoral College. They go and they cast their vote for president. The 2 most contested elections in recent modern American history were in 2000, when Al Gore won the popular vote, and George Bush won the Electoral College once he secured the votes in Florida. You know, you remember they had the hanging chads and all that, and there was a lot of concern because his brother was the governor, and I'm sure everything was up to snuff. I mean, the Bushes wouldn't do anything under the table. But anyhow, it was very hotly contested because Al Gore had won the popular vote and George Bush won the Electoral College. Okay? Well, in 2016, the same thing happened. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote and Donald Trump won the Electoral College. So the left has a geographical problem. They don't have a people problem because they can go out there and drum up plenty of dead people and illegal aliens. And worst case scenario, you go to a couple of counties down in Florida and they'll be bringing in truckloads of ballots for like 3 days. And hey, we can't disenfranchise anybody. All these ballots that were, that said Hillary 2020 on them, those things got to be counted. Oh, wait a minute, that was 2016, my bad. We'll let a little cat out of the bag there. So the importance of having an electoral college is the president has to win in each state. Each state's represented. Each state may have a smaller say, and it's based on population. You have a number of representatives based on your population. Okay? So if the people in that state are equally represented, if each state had 2 senators and 2 congressmen, well, a state like Wyoming with like 300,000 people would be just as powerful as a state like New York. But you have to admit, New York puts a lot more into the system than a smaller populated state like Wyoming does, and vice versa. So they try to set up a system that was as fair and equitable as could possibly be, yet at the same time not be so intrinsically complicated and difficult to understand that every election would be wrapped up in lawsuits for 10 years, and you have to postpone the next 2 elections because you hadn't settled the one from 12 years ago, right? So it's very important that people understand the Electoral College is a good thing. It's there to make sure that every state's represented, no matter how small the population. Otherwise, like I said, a populist candidate, a person who runs on the Santa Claus platform, which basically says, hey, I'm going to take money from everybody who has jobs and pays taxes and give everybody who votes for me a bunch of free shit. Okay, well, that's the definition of a tyrant. A tyrant was a person who was well-spoken, who could sway the crowd in an ancient Greek democracy. You see where we're going with this? Democracy is not necessarily a good thing. Democracy is rule by the mob, okay? And there is a very good analogy. It's very effective, and it's very true. Democracy is simply two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Just because the majority wants it doesn't mean it's a good thing. Especially if you are the oppressed minority. It's not fun anymore. So, the Electoral College is there to try to help stymie some of that, to stifle the possibility of a tyrant just going to a few large population centers, or stuffing ballot boxes in a few large population centers and stealing an election. Oh, I can't imagine why the Democrats want to go to popular vote and get rid of the Electoral College. You're telling me popular vote would be easier to steal a nationwide election? Because right now you got to steal it state by state. If all 50 states just get lumped together in some big hodgepodge, and you got people, I'm sure they'd put the Federal Elections Commission, that lady from Broward County or whatever, they'd put her in charge. I'm sure she's very well qualified. She's only screwed up how many elections in a row and still has her job. But anyway, yeah. So the odds of them being able to steal a national election, if it was strictly popular vote, well, guess what, everybody? California and Hawaii and Alaska are the last states to vote. Well, Hawaii and Alaska don't have nearly that many people, but California is very important because whoever can hold sway there can watch what happens in the rest of the country and make a call to their friends, and don't think that electioneering doesn't happen where you have illegal aliens vote, where you have, well, plenty of dead people that vote. Check out Illinois. I mean, their state motto is the voting dead. And any other place, they feel like pulling some kind of dirty tricks, okay? And that's the problem with the right. The right likes to lose on principle, and they stand up on a hill with the sun shining behind their back, and you hear angels singing and eagles flying, and they lost, but damn it, they're an honorable, dignified loser. When the other side realizes that it's all about winning, because you can't implement any policy as a loser. And so, yes, they will and can and have and do and proceed to steal elections any which way they can, state, federal, local, it doesn't matter. They'll do what they have to win because they understand that it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what your principles are if you have no power to implement it. So, what do I see happening in 2020? Well, a lot of states, as we had discussed, have passed these laws, okay? The state legislature, it's in the United States Constitution that the states have the right to decide how their electors are delegated to the Electoral College. The states can come up with it any which way they want to. And the federal government can't tell them it's unconstitutional because everything not enumerated in the Constitution, specifically powers to the federal government, are left to the states, and this is one of those things. The states pick how they can do, they decide to send their electors. So all these blue states, right, over the last couple of years since Hillary lost the general election based on the Electoral College, yet won the popular vote, they figured out, well, if it's a popular vote, it's a lot easier to steal an election. And two, their two most highly controversial candidates they've had, let's say, in the last 20 years, and the two most hotly contested elections were both lost even though their candidate won the popular vote. So they have a geography problem because their people aren't spread out. Their people are concentrated in large urban areas where they're closer to the mailbox on the 1st and 15th and get their checks. Apparently that's the theory. So anyhow, but the regular people, the ones that work for a living and you know, they can't be swayed by promises of free shit because it's all coming out of their tax dollars anyhow, they're spread out over a wide geographical area. So what I can foresee happening is that all these states have gotten together and they voted and they're in this compact together where they're going to nullify the Electoral College by saying whoever wins the popular vote will get our electors. And it's completely constitutional for them to do this, because it is left to each state to decide. Now, there's no law saying the states can't get together and throw their power in with each other. As a matter of fact, that's one of the provisions in the Constitution. That's why things are left to the states. If the states wanted to do that, if they felt it was necessary to do so, well, that's why elections matter. State, local, and federal. Who you got running your state, yeah, that's very important. Unless you're that Rand Paul-like figure with a American flag for a cape, and like I said, the eagles screaming in the background as you die in the sunset standing on your principles. What did that guy say, that Mel Gibson character in the movie Patriot? I'm a parent, I don't have the luxury of principles. Well, if you're a citizen who values your rights, you may not have the luxury of principles either, because the other side is not principled. You know, it's kind of like every time we get screwed on a business deal with the Chinese. The Chinese don't understand the concept of cheating the way we understand the concept of cheating. Because when they play a game, they guard themselves against being cheated. We don't, because we assume both sides are going to play by the rules. That's fair and square. They think you're an idiot because you didn't block their move to cheat you, so cheating is just winning by other means, right? So that's how they think. That's their mindset. So that's why the trade imbalance is so terrible. So dealing with people on the left, and I don't know how you compromise with these people with the belief system that they have. They are so far out there anymore. They're not the centrist Democrat capitalists of JFK times gone by. They're not even Bill Clinton's party anymore. I mean, you got the AOCs and the people from Minnesota and all the other craziness going on, and Jerry Nadler and everything else they're trying to do. Anyhow, getting off track. So what I see happening is a Democrat, and why do you think there's 30 of them running for president right now? They think it's a sure thing. They think it's a slam dunk, that one of them is going to win it. All they got to do is beat the other Democrats. They're thinking that getting by Trump's going to be a walk in the park. That's why so many are running. Only 2 ran last time because they were all afraid of the HRC machine, and none of them want to get Arkansited. So anyhow, that's why so many are running. So let's say we're in a situation where we've got these states that have voted to throw their lot in with whoever wins the popular vote now. We'll see how this plays out, because I guarantee you that amongst themselves, they can figure out a way to make sure Trump doesn't win the popular vote, no matter if he wins it or not. When they finally do the counting and the trucks stop showing up and backing up and dumping out ballots for 6 days, they'll make sure he doesn't win the popular vote, even if it's by 1, right? And so those states will automatically throw their 190 electoral votes to whoever wins the popular vote. And if they've got, 80 other electoral votes by that point, 270 is what you need. That's the insurmountable number. Once you've got 270, you've won. There's no mathematical way to beat you in the Electoral College at that point. So what happens if the president wins the Electoral College legitimately, and these people do some dragging of the feet technique to make sure that their person wins the popular vote, swinging 190 electoral votes their way? What if both sides decide that whoever wins is an illegitimate candidate either way, and that they're not going to recognize him as president? And not the kind of, I'm going to throw a fit and kick the carpet and scream at the sky and throw my hands up so everyone can see my pink armpit hair. No, I'm talking about in a serious way, where they go beyond saying this is a sanctuary city. They just may say, you know what, we're cutting ties with the federal government because we don't recognize the president on either side. Could be in for a serious problem. So when people say, what do you foresee in the near future, some kind of big event that could really cause this shit snowball to start rolling downhill at a very high velocity? 2020 election could be very interesting. Now remember, they've got 2 more years to try to gain the 270 majority, and I guarantee you that if the blue states get a 270 electoral majority, that no conservative, Republican, Libertarian, whatever-atarian, vegetarian, okay, Constitutional Party, People's Party, George Washington, Carver Party, whatever, if they're not Democrats, I can guarantee you that once the blue states get this 270 electoral college thing nailed down, the left will never lose a popular election again. Guaranteed. Then what do? It can get very interesting. This is why old, archaic, dusty shit like the Constitution matters. Why people need to read it. You know, I brought up that Electoral College thing. A lot of people were like, that's not constitutional. They can't do that. Oh, contraire, mon frere. Yes, they can. It is absolutely constitutional. Is it necessarily ethical? Well, yeah, they're playing by the rules. Now, if some of those states were to swing red, and the person, I don't know. I just don't see them ever setting up a game in which they could lose. And they wouldn't have this many states already on board, like 17 or 18 of them already, with 180 or 190 electoral votes already set aside this way. if they didn't think it was a scam that which they could use to rig the game. Hindsight may be 20/20. Absolutely. So I want to ask you this while we're on the subject. What have you done today to get ready? And I also want to say thank you for being on the team.
Alrighty. Let's see. Fun. Okay, got another one here from Full Spectrum Survival titled Danger, Artificial Intelligence Learns If You Are Lying and Earpods Causing Cancer.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Full Spectrum Survival's News on the Night Shift, covering important news events for the evening of March 12th of the year 2019. Artificial intelligence will soon be able to tell if you are lying or not, simply by having a live view of your eyes. This is according to researchers reporting on information that was published this week in the journal Nature Human Behavior. Due to the rapid nature of a test given to participants, mistakes in responses were common, they say, with participants giving the wrong answer around 22% of the time, notably. Throughout all the trials, researchers were interested in what was going on in the participants' eyes, specifically in their pupils. When an error was made, their findings add to scientific understanding of how pupil size and reactivity correlates directly with making a mistake, which can be used against us, against you, for any manner of information gathering in the technological rights void of the near future. This technology is likely already in use this very day around our world. That is according to researchers who stress that machine learning is already advanced enough and being used to proficient enough to be employed for use by government bodies in the first world, where they seek to gain an edge against any and all adversaries through non-detectable means, such as exterior video monitoring. From the research paper, quote, "The brain is an intrinsically noisy thing because it's basically a computer that is made out of fat and water. It has an intrinsic ability to represent stimuli perfectly." That is according to UA Assistant Professor of Psychology Robert Wilson, who co-authored this paper. Pupil size is reflective of the brain's level of neuroepinephrine, a neurotransmitter. These processes seem to be involved in modulating two different kinds of mistakes. That potentially means that neuroepinephrine is controlling the number of mistakes that we're making, and our amount of behavioral vulnerability or variability. The next step, according to researchers, is to see just how often humans can control this reaction, subconsciously and consciously, under duress, in order to get a baseline for artificial intelligence's ability to determine mistake-making and lying. We asked one researcher where this technology will be used. Their reply was that if it is not already in use, covertly in courtrooms and police stations, it will be in the courts of the future, as it is too viable of an ability to know beyond a shadow of a doubt if a person is making a mistake, acknowledging that mistake, or lying. We will see this used soon. In other news, there is corruption taking place on a massive scale in the Western world. Scientists and government bodies are paid off or lobbied by corporations who want to bring product lines to market, ones that will drive their values up, making these mega conglomerates all the richer with very little care for the subtle health disasters that can come to life or can come to place because of their sometimes unsafe products or even the practices with which these products are created. For years, we have heard from these paid off and lobbied officials who have claimed, beyond a shadow of a doubt of their own, that concerns over cell phone signals and wireless internet technology or in-home Wi-Fi is cancerous and capable of creating DNA change through radiation. They have waylaid these concerns. And for years, this talk has been labeled conspiratorial by corporate giants who have set up massive propaganda campaigns displaying the safety and the happiness endured by using their products. And in other cases, these conglomerates have employed government bodies, as well as researchers, to offset any negative data that was presented and pointed to the dangers of their product lines. It took years and undeniable scientific evidence for the mainstream to even publish small data from research organizations and universities that sat out of line with corporate propaganda. This information showed beyond doubt that cell phone radiation is capable of causing cancer in test subjects. the very same subjects that are used to determine if a food, a drug, or environmental procedure is safe for human interaction. But even with this evidence, the mainstream downplayed its effect due to the incorporated nature that cellular service and smartphones have with modern life. Now scientists are warning that earpods, a wireless earbud technology that puts a wireless speaker inside of your physical head, subsequently putting Wi-Fi radiation directly into your head, is capable of causing cancer in humans. And this practice should not only be avoided, the entire line of products should be removed from the marketplace. When researchers exposed animals to this form of radiation, reproductive, neurological, and genetic damage has become more common in those subjects than would be expected in a test group, or what would be seen as the control group of the experiment. These forms of energy are powerful enough to shake up atoms that compose cells, they say. Not quite powerful enough to create fundamental change to their structures, according to some of the research data, but yet changing it. Even now, as this video is published, a massive campaign is being drawn up to show the sheep of the world how safe these expensive and enjoyment-driven products can be. We expect to see extensive propaganda regarding earpod and Wi-Fi safety here in the coming weeks. The World Health Organization today released a global influenza strategy for the year 2019 all the way through the year 2030. The main goal of this strategy is protecting citizens, they say, by preventing seasonal flu, controlling zoonotic flu transmission, and most importantly, preparing for the next global pandemic. In a press release, the World Health Organization said that the new strategy is its most comprehensive and far-reaching to date. One of the two main strategies, the first being to build stronger country capacity for surveillance, response, prevention, control, and preparedness, with the group calling for every single country to have a tailored influenza and pandemic program. The Director General said in the release that partnerships and country-specific work should improve preparedness, but the world is still not prepared enough. This strategy aims to get us to that point, they say. Fundamentally, it is about preparing health systems to manage shocks. The strategy is 31 pages long, and we will leave a link to it with our other daily research links at patreon.com/fullspectrumsurvival, where it includes item topics such as stockpiling medication and preparing for regional shock by enhancing surveillance during times of pandemic stress. A special thank you to each one of our Patreon members for making the afternoon news and the news on the night shift a reality here on YouTube. To support our work, consider joining us at patreon.com/fullspectrumsurvival. At the $10 level is where Kelly and I get to give back to you with monthly high-resolution survival cards that we mail out to you each and every month. This evening's news is also brought to us in part by USABerkeyFilters.com. If you plan on filtering a lot of water when a disaster strikes, use the code FSS10. You'll receive 10% off of any ceramic order on the site. And ReadyMadeResources.com. The site's owner there warns that night vision and communication are hurdles that must be overcome in a disaster. If you use the code NM1, you'll receive a free meal with every purchase. As always, from Kelly and I to you and yours, please stay safe and keep watch.
Alrighty, got another one I see popped up here from Survival Prepping for Normal People. It's titled, America Could Lose World War III, ? I'm noticing it's like certain topics and channels always has this issue. Others don't. I'm kind of starting to notice a trend with that.
Hey guys, welcome back to Survival. Sorry, I had to make a little adjustment there. Welcome back to Survival Prepping for Normal People. So I've been getting a lot of people asking me about this RAND Corporation, or this RAND Corporation, this think tank, right, that the government hires, and they have several that they use. Brookings Institute is another famous one. They're the ones that came out with their report in the 60s that if extraterrestrials were real, you couldn't tell anybody about it because it would shake society to its core, and there'd be all kinds of chaos in the streets and this and that. So yeah, the government hires these think tanks to do lots of different things for them. Now, a lot of these think tanks hire former military, former intelligence people, all kinds of people like that, and they'll go to these schools where they have these gifted and talented kids, these super genius prodigy kids. The movie Good Will Hunting, they mention that, even though I apologize profusely and eternally to all of my subscribers for ever mentioning a Ben Affleck / Matt Damon movie in one of my videos. I promise it will never happen again. As a matter of fact, well, I'm not even going to say what I'd probably have to do to get that taste out of my brain. But anyway, in that movie, Matt Damon, he portrays this kid, this janitor at the college, right? And there's a professor, and he's like some kind of theoretical mathematician or whatever. And he's doing this really elaborate formula on the board, and he can't quite crack it. He's almost there. And in between mopping the halls and telling people about apples and trying to date Minnie Driver, one of the ugliest women to ever be in any kind of movie. Anyway, I digress. I shouldn't judge people based on their looks. She can't help it that she's British and terrible looking. Not that British women are terrible looking, just this one is a particularly terrible example. Anyhow, I'm getting way off on a tangent and digging the hole deeper. Anyway, there are lots of attractive British women. As a kid, I used to watch the Benny Hill show. Oh my God. The women he would have in those little chase scenes running around. No, don't let your 13-year-old sons watch that stuff. Anyway, this RAND study, right, that they said that if the United States got in a war with China and Russia, that the United States would get its clock clean, its proverbial ass kicked, if you will. Well, I've watched quite a few videos about that, and I read a couple of articles about it, and I had a lot of people tagging me saying, what do you think, what do you think? You know, yeah, I was a corporal in the Army years and years and years ago. My uniform was gray, by the way. That's not a Civil War joke. That's more of a how long ago I was in the Army joke, right? But anyhow, yeah, so despite Canadian Preppers' video about former military people that are preppers having a Napoleon complex, I really don't. I'm not even French. I don't want to be French. Not that there's anything wrong with them. Man, I'm just pissing off all kinds of European people today. I'm so Amerocentric. What was I thinking? Anyway, no, I am an interesting blend of Native American, Scottish, Irish, and who knows what else. But those are the three main ingredients in my Heinz 57 sauce. So yeah, definitely American, being a human melting pot. Anyhow, so RAND Corporation, one of these think tanks, okay? And in that Good Will Hunting movie, they tried to recruit him because he was like this genius kid to work at one of these think tanks. And so that's where I got off on that track. And then Minnie Driver popped in my head, and I still can't get her out of my brain. Oh, let me think about a Benny Hill show real quick. All right, that's better. Now I'm getting into Monty Python, and I've got the Black Knight stuck in my head. 'Tis but a scratch, right? 'Tis but a flesh wound. Come back here, you yellow bastard. Anyway, I kind of threw this video together, you can tell. I don't rehearse my videos, I don't script my videos, but I do like to think about what I'm going to say. But the point I wanted to make in this video, and everybody's been asking my opinion about it, so I thought I'd throw it out there. And it does have something to do with survival and prepping, because World War III is a, I don't want to say likely scenario, but it's a very, not even probable, but it's a possible scenario. And that's the problem. These scenarios that we think about as preppers and survivalists, the ones that are least likely to happen, there's like this scale, right? You know, it's the least likely to happen, but the magnitude of destruction is incredible. So you got to kind of keep that in the back of your mind when you're making your preps. Hangnails are very likely, but people don't prepare for those. A nuclear war, very unlikely, but the consequences of it, the magnitude is just beyond imagining, right? So anyhow, the RAND Corporation did this simulation, this study, where they took all these different factors into consideration, and they said that in every scenario that they played out, the 5 major theaters of war, whether it be land, air, sea, cyberspace, outer space, whatever they were looking at, that America would lose. Well, it depends on what you know, how you define lose, right? Do we lose militarily? Do we lose strategically? Do we fail to capture any of our objectives that we set out to do? Yeah, okay, that's probably all possible, right? Nothing's impossible. A lot of things would have to break their way to make that happen. Now, if it was like some kind of EMP sneak attack, which if you're any other country in the world and you're thinking about attacking the United States, the very first thing you'd have to do would be to take out our command and control structure, which is the most sophisticated in the world. but it leaves it vulnerable, right? Because let's say an EMP strike, you knock out half of the telecommunications, whatever. Well, the military has hardened systems and whatnot, and it would slow them down a few notches, right? They wouldn't be able to piggyback off your civilian internet. But believe me, they have redundant systems and then redundant systems on top of that. And if it comes down to smoke signals, semaphore flags, and signal mirrors, we'll figure something out, right? So at first I thought about it and I got kind of mad because I was like, America, you know, no way. I was in the Army. I worked with those guys. I know how they roll. We wouldn't get beat by a bunch of vodka drinkers and fried rice chefs, but it is possible. Okay, because like I said, anything's possible. But I think what is much more likely and much more probable, and I don't want you to get upset if you see any other videos or you read this RAND study about America losing World War III, because I'll tell you what I think it really is. What I think it really is. The military-industrial complex? Yeah, you know those guys? The president gave them like $600 gajillion, which was like a 30% increase over their former military budgets for the year before and all this and that. They don't have enough. They never have enough. Because the people that own these military contracting companies that build all this shit that we like to send overseas and use to blow up stuff and all the cool things we do as we're liberating the shit out of people. Yeah, that stuff costs a lot of money. So the people that run these corporations and own these corporations, they like to take these generals and admirals and all these other people out to dinner, and I don't know who the commander of the space fleet is, but Grand Admiral Zurg, whoever he happens to be, I'm sure he gets taken out to dinner by these people, and they're like, you know, we really need you to figure out a way to convince people that you need more these trillion-dollar spaceships, or whatever it is that they need. Okay, this RAND Corporation study is nothing more than a thinly veiled ploy by the military-industrial complex to demand we triple and quadrillion dollar budget, okay, so that they can buy more expensive shit and not give a single sailor, soldier, airman, or marine a raise. Now, that would be a good place to start spending some of that defense budget, but that'll never happen. People are expendable. Them budgets, though, that's what we need, right? So don't get too upset when you see that. It's a thinly veiled sales pitch. The military-industrial complex just wants more money, right? I believe we can defeat Russia and China. Now, the key to American success in warfare is the buildup, right? Logistically, we're a juggernaut. Nobody. That's why controlling the ocean and the skies is so important. Is so important. No American soldier has had to look up in fear of an enemy aircraft in 70 years, right? And when was the last time an enemy ship sank one of our vessels? Well, I can't remember, but it's been a long, long time, at least probably since World War II, right? So probably another 70 years. So as long as America dominates the high seas and the skies above, that gives America a huge advantage because we can build up. We can send a vanguard, a forward force, right? Like in Desert Storm to try to kind of hold the enemy at bay, keep the enemy guessing about what to do. You send in your rapid reaction forces like the 82nd Airborne, Marine Expeditionary Forces, things like this, which we do have the capability of doing. And we can have people in the world, anywhere in the world, thousands and thousands of troops heavily armed and ready to rock and roll in 20 hours or less. Now, UPS can't even, and FedEx can't guarantee shit like that. We can do it, and then we bring on other forces behind them, and it's the buildup that's the key. Now, if an enemy were to attack in such a way that it disadvantages our main strength, which is the ability to build up, because logistically, if we got to rent ships from 20 different countries around the world, we're going to get our shit where it needs to go, right? But that's the key, is not allowing America to build up. Now, if they could strike in some kind of cyberspace, EMP, blitzkrieg type thing, okay, which I'm sure they're working on, they'd be foolish not to. Maybe they'd have a chance. But I don't think this report is anything more than a handout. More money, please. So, these think tanks, like the Brookings Institute and RAND Corporation and all these other things, take what they have to say with a couple of pinches of salt. Okay? And they like to hit you where you live. especially Americans. We're very proud. We're very team-oriented. You know, what? America lose a war? Nah. No, let's throw more money at it. I think that's really all it is. It better be. Anyway, thanks for being here, guys. And I just got done wrestling around on the floor with my son, so that's why I'm all pumped up and in a good mood. The old back's feeling pretty good today. But anyway, thanks for being here, and thanks for being on the team.
I think what worries me the most, and this happens to be with not only the military, but even us as civilians, is the reliance on technology. If that technology gets wiped out, we'd be hurt. We'd be hurt. What development we have had militarily has been on at least for us, an advanced technological level. So, for instance, speaking of things like drones, okay, drones play a huge role for the U.S. military, not only in reconnaissance but even in warfare. If another country was able to successfully have a high rate of whether it be interference or whether it be flat-out destruction of those drones, that would be a setback. That would be a setback. Not to say that we don't have satellites that could get top-down views of these particular, locations. We've got a lot of redundancies, but a satellite can't see through clouds. So, if another country, another large country, was really strategic about their actions, it could spell danger. We have to be realistic with this. A very untechnological country like Vietnam held us at bay and just whipped us around. That was because our troops were not used to fighting in a jungle. Okay? So, again, when you go into unknown elements, if you don't have that technological advantage today, you're going to be, it's going to be a long, drug-out fight. The other thing is, and luckily, we don't have a lot of the F-35s in service yet. That's actually an advantage for us. The F-35 sucks. It again, if it's not for its technological advances, that plane would be useless completely. But it can't, it does. It's got some pretty neat little bells and whistles, right? Which can give it an advantage, a big advantage. But the damn thing can't fly. It can't dogfight. You're not going to be taking an F-35 up against a, Su-30 or Su-35 or whatever. You're not going to, because it's not going to do it. It doesn't have, I call it flickability. It doesn't have the flickability. It can't dance in the air like, say, an F-22, right? F-22, awesome aircraft. I think they need to actually put more money and technology into the F-22 and discard the F-35 project. In fact, they did do that with the F-22. They came out with the F-23, which was an awesome bird. But that's the direction they need to go. They really need to drop this F-35 stuff, because even aerodynamically, it is far from superior in the skies. It's not made for that. It's made to be a stealth aircraft, a very fast stealth aircraft that can sneak in, get out. It's meant to be more like a rocket with missiles, okay, essentially, that can, on most versions, can land anywhere. So it's kind of like a Harrier jump jet mixed in with a B-1B, right? It's an interesting bird, just not working out so well. So we'll see. Anyway, W7's got a very interesting video here. I think it was yesterday. Practical prepping for ordinary people. I wanted to get the name of the channel right. did a video talking about cashless societies and stuff like that, and she mentioned in particular Philadelphia and how they have some cashless stores and how that was concerning. W7 has a video here titled Philadelphia Outlaws Cashless Stores, calling them discriminatory. So this is actually good news, I think.
With an increasing number of U.S. businesses no longer accepting cash, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, is taking a stand to protect the so-called unbanked and will force merchants to accept greenbacks, saying it will be the first major U.S. city to outright reject a trend that has seen more and more retail outlets, especially restaurants and others, move to accept payments via credit, debit, mobile phones, cryptocurrency, or other digital payments. Consumers and businesses who support digital payments say they are faster and more practical, but opponents say such practices exclude the unbanked, those without bank accounts and those without credit cards, debit cards, things like that. That's what unbanked means in this instance. Now, Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney recently signed this into law. This amendment to the city's Fair Practices Ordinance prohibiting stores and restaurants from refusing to accept cash, calling it unlawful discrimination. The measure will go into effect on July 1st. And despite the cashless trend around the globe, where we've seen China and other countries stepping up and using phones to pay for everything, they're saying in the United States they are lagging behind. Now, there's a lot of different ways to view this and where this could go, and I always say it's time for the people to step up and create a currency that they can stand behind, that they can back, that they believe in, and you have to do it. You have to do it with all your heart. If not, another man's going to come along and do what they've done this whole time with the Federal Reserve System, whether it's digital or not, and they're going to try to control it to their advantage. There's no other way around it. It has to be something brought about by the people. No excuses. And we also have New Jersey talking about doing the same thing. They just have not signed it into law yet. But wanted to make mention of it. I will leave a link below. Make sure to follow me on Twitter for more. It's been Dabu7.
Alrighty, that's an awesome thing. I'm glad to see it. Hopefully that takes root in other places as well. Because I hate to see anything in the direction of this. I myself am, as they termed it, unbanked. Okay, I am unbanked. I do have, if it's not expired, it might even be expired, one of those little prepaid debit cards. But that's it. Other than that, I am unbanked. So. I never thought that was even going to be a term. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for the evening. God willing, we'll be back again tomorrow for another day. But tomorrow it's going to be in the 60s here, and that is incredibly awesome. Maybe, just maybe, I might even be able to sneak the windows open for a little bit. That would be nice. Get a little fresh air in here. So, anyway, until then, I hope everybody has a good night. As always, God bless you, we love you, and be one with your spirit.